Hello. I'm gonna pop out the chats early because I have a feeling they're gonna break again, and I'd rather have them popped out like from the get-go than need to like wait to do it. You know what I mean? So let's get these chats popped out right away. How about that? Huh? Shkapow! Hi guys! Hi everybody! Hi! Hi guys, welcome to the stream. Welcome in everybody. My name is Roy Chiato, like a macchiato. I'm your coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I love working out, in case you couldn't tell. Sometimes you gotta swing them. You gotta swing them to make sure that people know their place. You know, give them the business. Hyperflex, you're goddamn right. Guys, welcome to the stream. Happy, what's today? Tuesday. For me, it was a Wednesday. Guys, I hope you're kicking butt today. Welcome to the stream. In case you didn't check this week's schedule, which is always pinned over on Twitter, you can expect us to be reacting to Resident Evil 2 today. We're going to be going back behind the scenes into the development cycle, the inspiration, behind the scenes information, story tidbits, and things like that. Now that we have finished our retrospective on it gameplay wise, it's time to sit back, relax with some coffee, some popcorn, your favorite bun, and watch some zombies get blasted. But in the meantime, how are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? How you guys feeling? Everybody vibing? Everybody thriving? Everybody surviving? I'm really surprised because tomorrow's a pretty big day. Tomorrow's a pretty big day. Obviously, I'm very excited for today. You know, I'm excited to stream. I'm very, very happy to be here with you guys. Very important, very important. However, tomorrow is a teaser for our next audio roleplay. And I'm very shocked that not a single person has guessed the full lineup of people. Remember, it's me and 3 other men. 4 men. My brain is too small and I'm too full of hope, Roy. Who are you hopeful for? I don't even know who you're hopeful for. Roy, and Roy. Belmar got it. Belmar was the first one to get it. It's actually me in 4 different scenarios flirting with myself. But then we all go to the gym. You know? I got so sunburnt that my eyebrows are visible. Your eyebrows are blonde. Oh, wow, that's crazy. Get some aloe vera. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't hurt too badly. I would imagine that that type of sunburn is a pain in the butt. I can't imagine. I want the muscly boys again. I don't know when's the next time that's going to happen. It is very hard to get that many people together consistently. And, yeah. It's just hard to get that many people together. However, I am slowly working on more groups, new groups, and things like that. So definitely expect some new groups in the next couple of months. I think Nick and I mean, like, obviously Nick and I have other stuff planned that's outside of the channel, just because we've both been very busy bees. We've been very busy buns, though I think he's back to cat form now. I'm pretty sure he's back to cat form. If he's not, then we're both very busy buns. Michaela dressed as a dude. Wait, I kind of like that. That's kind of funny. Michaela, write that down. But yeah, Muscle Boys will probably happening at some point. I'm assuming you mean the gym bros, right? Yeah, the gym bros. Is Shia one of the men? We're gonna have to find out. Like I said, no one's guessed the full group yet. Not a single person has guessed the full group yet, which is kind of exciting. How many of them are purple? 1. Only 1. Yeah, right? So that makes it even more intriguing. Noted. Yeah. Hold up. I'm listening. I'm waiting. I'm pausing. What's up? Rez did a video called Just Bad Games on Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue on N64. I don't know who Rez is, but cool. Hope it was a good video. Just like I hope this is a good apple. I think this is the first 7. It's not bad, but it's not to the same level as the other ones are. This is my first 7. Yeah. That's my first 7. Still better than on the Head Crisps. I mean, 3 8s and a 7 is pretty good, right? 3 8s and a 7? I'd say that's pretty good. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. I kind of prefer if the doctors come to me. Because, like, listen, there's some hot doctors out there, you know? Not to mention, plenty of other people I'd like to attract. 7 is the average score of your apples rounded. Yeah, so 7 is probably average. Which is kind of a weird thing to say. Because, like, you'd think 5 would be average. But 7 is kind of average, right? Shia or the guy you did aftercare with. Who knows? But you're talking about Rikami. But Rikami is purple as well. So, can't be both of them. Can't tell if I want to get up and get an apple. I'm so comfy. You should. Go get an apple. Have you eaten yet today? Did you eat today? You ate today, right? You guys had food, right? Oh, speaking of eating, Nick as my witness, I finally started like the hardest part of like the new diet workout routine, which is why I posted about it on Twitter. And if you guys didn't see, I posted a progress pic, which it wasn't like super progress. It was just more so like to celebrate getting back into the gym and weightlifting. Because I was getting in the gym before, but I was just doing like just enough exercise to kind of like pass it. You know what I mean? What's up, Nightflower? Welcome in. Hi, Kevin. So the hardest thing that I had to do was I had to go deep into the nutritional facts of a bunch of different foods and make sure that I got everything that I needed. So I'm having an apple now, and once I finish this apple, I'm in the mid 1500s range, I think is where I am. Actually, I can double check that. Hold on. I'm at about 1550 calories, which is kind of crazy considering I feel like I ate so much today, but I really didn't. And I still need to get like, I still need more protein. I still need like a little bit. I've had about almost 160 grams of protein today, which is crazy, right? 160 grams of protein? That's insane. That's insane. Crazy and insane. My dog chose me to snuggle. I'm jealous. I'm sitting here in bed with a rash on my thigh and a jet black sweater and shorts and sunburn. Damn. That's crazy. Get some aloe vera. I've obtained Fuji apple. I'm still on this Cosmic Crisp. Let me take a second bite. Maybe it'll change my opinion. Hold on. No, it's still a 7. It's still a 7. Average rating would depend on the rest of the rating. 7 can become average if most games are around that score. Well, we were talking about Apple ratings. The ratings of the apples that I've had on stream. And 7 appears to be the average score. Because we had a bunch of 8s in a row. But then previous to that, we had a bunch of like lower scores, which is why we switched kinds of apples. We went from Honey Crisp to Cosmic Crisp. I leveled up. I evolved. Get some more pizza then, or just some more food in general. I treated myself for the first time in like 2 months. Ate some homemade donuts. Was one of them Boston cream? Did you have a Boston cream donut? Listen, I could go for a Boston cream donut. You know what I'm saying? I could go for a Boston cream donut. I really want one. Oh, I was really keeping track as a joke, but I committed to the spreadsheet. Ain't no way. You have a spreadsheet? There's a spreadsheet? Wait, that's actually insane. That is actually insane. In the membrane. Don't laugh. I didn't. I gasped. Now I'm laughing because you told me not to laugh. Oh my gosh. I had a Boston cream for the first time a couple weekends ago. Ooh. I hope you liked it. It's my favorite kind of donut, and I haven't had it in like forever. Sugar Fairy, thank you for the 3 months. Yay. RE isn't as scary as I thought. Yippee! Yeah, especially today because we're not playing RE. We are reacting to the Resident Evil 2 Retrospective, which is the same videos that we've been watching in the past that kind of go over the story and the behind-the-scenes details and the hidden tidbits of information maybe you didn't know. So we're going to be reacting to that in just a couple minutes, you know? I had them with melted white and dark chocolate, 3 of them. 3 donuts! And you didn't get me one? Wait, what? There's Boston creams in my donut right now? Wait, in my kitchen right now? And you didn't get me one? I'm screaming. I'm screaming geometrically. Oh, I can't believe this. I can't believe this. It's my first time with you here, sir. Is it? I feel like I've seen you before. I could be wrong, though. Welcome in if not. Hi. Oh, did they not share? I know, right? How dare they? It's crazy. I tend to fall asleep during Resident Evil streams. From the spooks or just because they're so long? Probably because they're so long, I would imagine. Someone get this bun a donut stat? I can't. I've got a very strict calorie regimen that I have to stick to. You know, I have to stick to my calorie regimen. The only time I'm breaking it is on Friday because I'm going to the movies to see Superman. So I'm gonna use that as my like cheat day, and then I need to maintain progress every other day. So, and I'll probably still go to the gym on Friday before I go see Superman, just so I can like get that pump in, you know? See me on Zanny's stream probably. Oh, that could be it. You know in RE2 that, just a fun fact. Wow. Thanks. What's up, Ben? Hope you enjoyed the movie. Yeah, I hope so. I'm very excited for it. We got tickets to the, it's like, so you know how like most theaters have, I guess it's an IMAX. I guess that's what it is. Or like the big screens with like the enhanced audio. Isn't that what it is? I think it's not always IMAX though. Whatever it is, it's like the enhanced viewing experience. So I'm seeing it in the afternoon and we got like perfect seats. I'm so happy because it's like Friday in the middle of the day. It's like 2 or something, you know? So like most people are probably like still at work or still at school or like whatever else. So when I snagged the seats, there was not a single seat taken. I'm very, very excited. Yeah. I saw you playing Peak with him, then went for a deep dive on your ASMR channel last night. Well, I haven't played Peak with Zanny. I wish that I could. But I have not played Peak yet with him. I've only played Peak once on stream. That was with Milky, Shizu, and Shiri. Who's at school? It's July. College? What do you mean? Yeah, I'm not Haka, nor am I vain. I know, they're both very sexy and I'm sexy. It's very easy to confuse us. Laser viewing? I'll take your word for it. Someone mentioned you and Zanny mentioned his ASMR with you. Yeah. Yeah. Zanny and I have worked hard together on a lot of cool stuff. I hope we get to do something again soon. I feel like it's been a while since we've done something. I mean, I was literally just talking about the other day that I missed Zanny so much. That's why I'm so happy that Zanny and I get to hang out this week, you know? I still got to do, I keep saying I want to do more stuff with Nick, but then I'm like, oh wait, Nick and I have literally an audio role play this Friday that we're doing. Not on the channel, for Magic Wave. So that's going to be super fun. Haka is purple. He is. Shout outs to purple. One of my favorite colors. Oh, Incubun? Yeah, we're hanging out on Thursday for the drinking stream with Project Zomboid. Yeah, Haka is purple. There could be summer school too. True. It do be like that. Drunk Zomboid should be fun. Funny enough, I got the idea from Haka. And I was gonna see if I could get everyone together. But then Haka has mentioned on several occasions how busy he is this month. And I was like, oh, let me not bother Haka, because he's probably too busy. I'm trying to get the gang together for Power Rangers again too. And I'm like, if I can only steal Haka for one more collab this month, I am going to be voting to bring him to Power Rangers, which hopefully I get to hear back from everyone soon. We've only had a couple people mention that hey, you should, coming in after watching the first part of the RE retrospective VOD, wanted to make sure you knew that there's a .hack retrospective by Super Rad. I think someone mentioned that to me before. I do want to watch it, but I feel like I would want to replay the quadrilogy before I do that, if only just for the sake of only just for the sake of I just want to play .hack, and it would be the most casual whatever streams ever. You know what I mean? It would be the most chill The other problem though is I would have to play on emulator, which I don't want to do, because I own the games. They're over on my shelf. But it's man, I just want them to port it to something. Even if it's just PS4, PS5 as PS2 classics. Man, I want to replay them. I'm very excited for Zomboid. Yeah, me too. I always love getting to hang out with Zanny. Zanny got me super addicted to Zomboid. I'm not gonna lie. There are a couple times where Jun, my manager, has yelled at me, and he was like, "You cannot play Zomboid this many times in a row, Roy. Stop." I'm like, "Put Zomboid. Put Zomboid. Put Zomboid." The gameplay did not age well, though. You're talking to somebody that used to speedrun it. I think that gameplay aged amazingly. What's up, Java Mama? Hi, Laurie. Hi. What's going on? Hi. Hi, Ignatius. One of the boys is purple, so then there's 3 now. I'm thinking, well, I'm one of the boys. I said I'm one of the boys, and one of the boys is purple as well, and there's 4 of them. 4 men. Send Mane-san to me. I'll fight them in your honor. I don't want to fight Jun. Jun is the one that makes all my thumbnails. I can't do that. I have to be nice to them. They do lots of hard work for me. Speaking of lots of hard work, not the roleplay that's coming out this Friday, but the following Friday. So not this roleplay, the next roleplay. We are big changing up the thumbnails, which I am very excited for. We're going to be experimenting with a combination of the old school thumbnails from the channel and new style. So I hope you guys like it. It's definitely going to be a lot more simplistic. I'm very excited for that. I know it's so weird to be like, man, I'm excited for this small change. It's the small things that get me excited, guys. Like the small dusk bunnies. Because you guys are so tiny. I pick you up. You're so small. You're so small and adorable and pathetic. Yeah. Even small changes can be fun. True. And thanks for the follow. Welcome in. Oh. I do like that. Yeah. Old school, and I thought the scientist series was Shia. Yes, so like that style thumbnail is something we're going to be looking back into recreating. Is Zomboid going to be one life? Zanny and I are playing around with that idea. We did actually joke about it being a one life Zomboid stream. We think it might be, but the thing that we're not sure about is how we feel about that going with drinking and what happens if one of us dies but not the other. Because then it's like, if one of us dies, is it just GG? Like what's the game plan there? You know? We might come up with like almost like a punishment system where it's like 3 strikes and we're done. But we could even do like a soul link where like if one of us dies, both of us dies and we have to completely start over. That could be pretty cool. That could be pretty fun. It's a hangout and Zomboid stream. I don't think you should do one life. We'll see how we feel. We'll see how we feel. I was about to ask if you're going to do a VA collab with a female, but you have once, I think. I have a couple times with a female. Oh, a female. I have a couple times. I have some female identifying friends. When are you playing Zomboid with Zanny? On Thursday. This time Thursday. Yeah. A woman. True. It do be like that. But no, I think it's just because like the people that I roleplay with on the audio roleplay channel, it's just like I do it with the people that I like. You know, the people that are my friends. Gender is not really something I think about too much when it comes to like the people that I want to work with. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that the majority of the people that I'm close with are men. So I wish I could VA. I think it's fun. But do it then. Go start playing D&D, practice roleplay, or take some VA lessons. There you go. Not long ago, he didn't one with... Wait, he did one with Michaela. I've done 3 with Michaela? 3? I think 3. When someone calls me female, I'm a man. I think it's 3. Because there was the thief one. There was the one that we just did. Are those the only 2 that we've done? Is that it? Well, I've got another one planned, if that is it. I think. I keep thinking there's a 3rd that I just keep forgetting about. Female or male is irrelevant to me when you're a simp. That's funny. I like that. Just like it's irrelevant when you like Apple. 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 What's up, Mac Belly? Apple. Can't stay now, but I'll be back in a little bit. No worries. Welcome and goodbye. But in my case, I can't eat them. Are you allergic? Or do you just not have any? I love the crunch of the apples. It's a nice little ASMR, right? I think it's cute. Oh, right, the yoga one. Maybe that's the one I keep thinking of, but it's not on the channel. So every time I go to like look for it, I'm like, it might be that one. Because I don't think we could... Michaela and I made jokes about it before, the yoga one. We can't do something like that on YouTube. Which is... It's so ass backwards. Because, like, we do the gym ones with the men. You know, like with Shia and Nick. And we have so much grunting and, like, verbal efforts. You know? But, like... we're fine. But I swear to God, if I brought in Michaela as someone that's female presenting or identifying, and immediately, like, we'd probably get like a strike or something like that, you know? I should have an apple count to keep track of how many I've had over the year. Well, Thorn kind of has that. Very looking forward to the next Magic Wave. Yeah, so in case you guys didn't know, if you're a fan of the more spicy content, I do role plays with Magic Wave pretty regularly. So if you enjoy some stuff that I normally wouldn't be able to put on my own channel, or you want to see a different side of me and the stuff that I produce, check out Magic Wave. I do stuff for them pretty regularly. It's magic like you're performing magic, and wave like you're waving hello. In their Discord this Friday, I'm actually going to be recording something spicy with both Nick and Michaela, which is going to be awesome. Have you ever given an apple a 0 out of 10? Ooh, I don't think so. If I did, then I just don't remember. I'm going to go with that. I got to delete the spreadsheet now. What? That's crazy. Oh, allergic. I see. What's up, Majestic Man? Did you call me a hoe? I mean, like, true, but like, why'd you have to say it like that? What the heck? Not gonna lie, I'm fairly new to VTubers until like a month ago. I was kind of scared to join in on conversations, but I'm glad the VTubers I found so far and their fans are absolutely welcoming and nice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been very fortunate enough to be joined by the Dusk Bunnies. I've been so... It's so crazy because like I've gone through so many transformations, and like next month will be 4 years of me VTubing. You know? 4 years. And prior to that, like I think the most amount of success or the most amount of like happiness I had was speedrunning. And even then, it does not compare to like what I'm doing now. It's completely different. Time goes by so fast. Yeah, I started August of 2021, and it was just when I left Jersey and I moved to Texas, you know? Yeah. You're 4 years old. Yippee! Glad you found your passion. Yeah, it's really funny because like I had been streaming for I think 3 years already by the time I became a VTuber. So like it's 7 years. Wait, no, it's 8 years 4 years VTubing, 8 years streaming in August. So I had been streaming since 2017, but I didn't find any type of success or like exploration of passion until I got into VTubing. You know? Man, it's crazy. It's 100 outside right now. What is it for me? It is 91, apparently. It's pretty hot, but not as hot as me. Did you know you're from Jersey? Yeah, that's why I make so many Jersey jokes. I don't actually make a lot of Jersey jokes. But yeah, I used to live in New Jersey. I was in the, I don't live there now, so I don't mind saying where I was, because none of my family's there anymore. I was in the Cherry Hill area, which I'm sure like a lot of people that are familiar with Jersey know Cherry Hill, because Cherry Hill's pretty big. So, once you removed the weakness of flesh and became the machine spirit of the bunny, did you grow? Yeah, I mean, it's basically like that. Until I became, no one cared who I was until I put on the bunny ears. Took a shower, what are we talking about? Oh, how I'm coming up on my 4-year VTubing anniversary in next month. So I have no idea what I'm doing. Maybe I'll do like a 24-hour subathon or something like that. That could be fun. I'll make like a long weekend, and I'll do like a 20, or I'll do like a multi-day subathon. I've never like properly done one, you know? Shower stream? No. Shower stream is only for, well, maybe if we make it a subathon goal, maybe that could be fun. What's a subathon? Basically, I don't stop streaming until the timer runs out and new subscriptions or memberships or super chats or bits or donations make the what's it called go up, the timer. Think about Five Nights at Freddy's animatronic. I mean, I would probably do that too. Buff Bunny work video. Ooh, that is something I was gonna do. That is something I was thinking about doing. A workout like with me type video. Cause like I saw Vanta, Wilson, Vesalius, and Uki all do like shower or bath streams. And I'm like, I'm not at 200K, but I'm kind of close to 50K. We're like 18K away from that. I'm at like 32,000 subs on YouTube right now. So I'm kind of like, if we get to 50K on YouTube, I'll do a workout stream. But unfortunately, you won't be able to see it. You'll just hear me working out kind of thing, you know? And then if we get to 100K, maybe I'll do a shower stream or a bath stream. Bath stream sounds more fun. You heard him, chat. Go, go, go. Go, go, go. There you go. Work out with Roy. That would be awesome. Yeah. I really wish that I had like an IRL setup that I could just bring you guys with me to the gym. Like, I think that would be really fun. Clip it and share it. Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to share it, I can say it more easily. If I get to 50,000 subscribers anytime in the near future, I'll do a workout stream. Though it'll probably be something like a picture on screen, and I'll have a microphone to hear me talking to you guys, and you can hear all the efforts and the weights and whatever else I'm going to be doing. So yeah, and then maybe shower stream or bath stream once I hit like 100 or 200K. Hopefully. Hopefully. I'm really hoping you get to be more popular. I'm working on it. You know, I've got a lot of really cool ideas, but I think the biggest thing right now is I need to work on, this is such a crazy thing, right? I feel, I just leaned up because I got all excited to be able to talk about this. The weird thing when it comes to the growth that I want to find, there's a lot of really cool ideas that I have, but I can't do them right now because I don't have enough money. I don't have enough money. So the big thing that it kind of turns into, and that I know, like, I want to make more money with the content that I'm doing currently so that I can invest it in more content that I want to do and then grow even further from there and then do even more content, you know? Because, like, man, it just... There's so many cool things that I'd really like to do. Like, I really want to do my own type of Power Rangers content, but I don't have the time to edit myself, unfortunately, with all the other things that I do between singing lessons and voice acting work and voice acting auditions and the audio roleplay channel and streaming and a full-time job. I don't have enough time to make videos. So I'd have to pay an editor to do it. And if I do that, I don't really have the money, you know? I don't have the money to do it. Money sometimes sucks. It do be like that, you know? You're a whole huge multitasker. Yeah, it's actually really funny, Ben, that you say that. Like, I think I work about as hard as like a lot of the other VTubers that I know and follow. I don't think I'm like a special case or anything, but like, I don't think a lot of people know that I work a full-time job on top of content creation. I got off the clock 40 minutes ago. I get off the clock from work and I come to stream. In case you guys didn't know that. Immediately. You'd have to hire an editor, which costs money. Yep. Yes, I would. Much appreciated for all you do. I appreciate it. Red Dragon. Hi. Roy, my workout today was sponsored by the Hot Texas Sun. Ooh, that's awesome. Oh, hey, thank you for the super. Little help. I freaking love your streams and ASMR OP. Oh, eres el conejo más lindo. Oh, gracias. Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You're a bunny, but you ain't got no carrots. Yeah, I need some carrots. I need some carrots, guys. I need some carrots. I want to make carrot cake. Fuck. Who wants to make carrot cake with me? Oh, maybe I can invite Shia. Be like, I'll message Shia right now. Be like, Shia, when you're home, do you want to plan time to make carrot cake with me Damn. Cool. Just so I don't forget. Yippee! Yeah. What's up, Monokuma? It's punishment time! Rory, are you related to the Energizer Bunny? Yeah, because I just keep going and going and going. Don't you know me? Love carrot cake. Carrot cake's so good. Can you have carrot cake on your new diet? I can have a cheap, like, slice of cake. It's not like that by having, like, a slice of cake, I'm not going to ruin everything. You know, that's not how it works. Love the design of your outfit and everything. Thank you. I appreciate that. Big love. What's your favorite genre of what? Favorite genre of what? I've never had carrot cake. You should try it sometime. Very tasty. Surprisingly, right? Hope your day went well. Not bad. It was a pretty busy day. It was kind of a busy day. Favorite genre of everything. Favorite genre of D's. The ones fresh from the gym or the ones attached to people of the color purple? Clearly. It's like my favorite. True. Carrot cake good? True. True. Carrot cake among my faves? True. True. Nice? True. True. All right. Guys, are you ready to dive into this video? You ready to go have some fun? Favorite genre of movies, books, and music? Okay. Movies? I like horror. I actually do really like horror, but like... Ooh, that's hard. I'd say like horror or like superhero are usually my go-to, because like the superhero ones are usually popcorn flicks, so like I can kind of like just go and have fun and turn my brain off. The horror ones I always really like. Mystery are cool too, so like the Knives Out movies are freaking amazing. I really like those. Books, I'd say like I've been reading through Red, White, and Royal Blue, which has been very cute so far, so I'd say probably romance or fantasy. And then music, I like lo-fi and hip-hop and jazz. But I was talking to Haka about it during our baking stream. I was play things like it on stream if I could. But I also really like new age punk. Like things like Paramore, Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, Red Jumpsuit Apparatus, My Chemical Romance, and then that translates into punk pop in like Japanese as well. So things like Rookies is Punked, Man with a Mission, and then like single anime openings like Mayday, which is the second Fire Force opening, the second opening from Yowamushi Pedal by Dirty Old Men, some of Haikyuu's openings, some of Kuriko's openings, you know? But it's like, it's almost like Gap Moe in some senses, but like one that I don't know if I ever want to pursue. Because like, I think those are the songs that I'd honestly love to learn how to sing. Because like the jazz stuff is great and I really love it. And I love like leaning into my aesthetic. But I also like, Haka really got me thinking about what it would be like if I lean into, you know, if I lean into some like pop punk or just punk or like soft metal stuff. I think that would be cool. Legends and Lattes is good. Oh. Hi, Jerry. Hi, Vongole. If it helps streamline aspects of their designs, what you identify as them. Oh, I'm tracing and I'm struggling to do so. Why are you tracing it? Why don't you just go to Twitter and check out the pinned reference sheet under my schedule. There you go. All right, now let's dive into the video. Sorry, I was answering questions. All right. I should probably pull up the video, right? YouTube. Your favorite son.
Resident Evil.
Thank you. Resident Evil. I love his voice. He's got such a nice voice for like narration. It's very surprising. Chat, where are you? There you are. Chat, you guys were missing. Why were you guys missing? What were you doing? Shkapow! Okay. Okay. And then I'm gonna turn on my monitor. I'm going to turn on my monitor. Okay. And we turn off La Musica. Screen is black. Yeah. Because I was moving stuff around. Anyway. Ugh. All right, guys. Let's dive in. Here we go. Boss, why are we in the void? We're not. We're in a video that's buffering.
Resident Evil 2 attempts...
Resident Evil 2. True. I want to sip my coffee. We don't want to sip my coffee. What? In a rabbit den. Made you feel like that. If you're still seeing time, open your eyes and maybe you'll see. It's smooch. Wait, who are we smooching? If it's smooching time, who are we smooching? Also, I'm going to turn up the volume. Is this maxed out? Yes. Okay.
Resident Evil 2 attempts to iterate on the horror introduced by the first game in the series.
For those of you that don't know, Resident Evil 1 came out in 1996. This came out 2 years later, which is crazy. Games used to have such small time between them. Just like FF7, 8, and 9 were 1997, 1999, and 2000, which is crazy.
A game that captured hundreds of thousands of players, that terrified
the most evil resident? No,
gamers
that's me.
Everywhere, that represented a massive step for the horror genre on the PlayStation 1. Resident Evil 2 wanted everything that the first game had and more, and it succeeds at all of those things, just in a wildly different way.
Absolutely true. 100% agree with that. Resident Evil 2 is such a crazy jump because Resident Evil 1 is so focused in one environment and one kind of linear story with not a lot of narrative, not characters, not any development. It's just kind of like, go here, do this. Oh, by the way, Wesker betrayed you. Oh, by the way, here's a tyrant. Oh, this is how the virus got out. But Resident Evil 2 takes that and it's like, what if we did all of that, but by like 100 times more?
The first and second Resident...
Man, look at these pre-rendered backgrounds. Look how pretty this looks. What the heck? Why does this look so good? That's insane.
Resident Evil game could not be more different entries in the same series. While the gameplay remains much the same, the environment is wildly different, the characters are different, and most importantly, the fear is different.
Yeah, because you've gone from like an isolated mansion where it's like the horror is contained in the mansion to this very different feeling of Resident Evil having spread to a city. So instead of it being, here's the nightmare, here's the horror, here's the downside of everything, you know, it's now everywhere. There's no safety from it. And that's almost the terrifying part of it. Because it's like, wow, if it escaped the mansion and got into this entire city, then it could get anywhere. The evil has escaped the residence. Exactly. Now it's in multiple residences. See, instead of it being Resident Evil, it's Resident Evils. It's like Alien to Aliens. What's up, Disarmer? Hi. And like the short interval, the quality is top notch. Cool camera angle. Yeah, this is right at the beginning of the game too. You go to the end of this passageway and there's handgun ammo here, you know?
The bones of the game are the same, but the skin and the soul feels new and fresh. Fundamentally the same as two humans, but entirely different people.
Also, I would probably say almost like a fresh suit of armor. Because it is the same bones. It really is the same bones. And if anything, I think it's probably the same engine too. Because RE1 to RE2 to RE3 all feel very much the same. They all feel like they have that this is a Resident Evil game when you play it. The sound effects feel that way. The enemy effects feel that way. The gun effects feel that way. And when you go from 1 to 2, it really does just feel like someone was like, okay, I'm going to take this engine you have in this car. You know, I'm going to replace it, new engine. Or like, I'm going to take this same knight, give him a brand new coat of armor. Was it just Raccoon City or other places as well besides the manor? So it's everywhere in Raccoon City, but Raccoon City is massive. You know, I remember you go from the streets of Raccoon City to the police station, to the sewers, to the Umbrella Lab, you know? Is RE a franchise that gets better with each game? No. Being completely plainly realistic and transparent, Resident Evil is much like other franchises. It grows, it adapts, sometimes it improves, sometimes it takes directions that people may not want. There are definitely games in the franchise that aren't for me, but I understand why other people would love them. I think one of the most contested ones is probably Resident Evil 6, because after Resident Evil 4, they started leaning much more into action. So 4, 5, and 6 all have more and more and more action. 6 definitely super action heavy, and it kind of becomes more of an action zombie game rather than a horror survival horror game. And like 4 isn't a survival horror game, 4 is an action horror game, you know? So it makes sense that they would continue in that direction. However, I do know that some people don't like that direction. Resident Evil 6 specifically, I actually think it's fun. I just think it doesn't feel like Resident Evil at times, and that's why it's not for me. Like Dead Space 3, maybe. A period where they want the Call of Duty money. You know what's really funny too is I think even though Resident Evil 6 is such a polarizing entry in the franchise, it made them so much money. Like I think when RE6 came out, it was like the highest selling Resident Evil ever, like just by itself, or like the best launch that Resident Evil had ever have. And then it kind of, Resident Evil was in a dark place after Resident Evil 6. I'll say that much. Because then we got like Umbrella Corps and Reverse and, you know, some of the other not so great stuff. And then Resident Evil 7 saved Resident Evil. Absolutely. Seems to be a very beloved franchise regardless. Yeah, it turns 30 next year with Resident Evil 9. And this is part of the reason why we're doing this. I just picked a really good time to start this retrospective because Resident Evil 9 comes out February 27th of next year, which is my 1-year debut anniversary of this model. So it kind of worked out really nicely. So we'll definitely be playing that. So why I really wanted to do it here. What's up, Angela? Welcome in. Despite the shift to action horror, it was kind of inevitable. Once you know the threats, can they really scare you as well as it did then? So yeah, that's the thing, is there's definitely a way to combine them. And some of the remakes, I think, have done that really well. Resident Evil 2 Remake, and even though it has some issues, Resident Evil 3 Remake, I think handled this really well. Because there are definitely those moments of, oh man, I wasn't expecting that, or oh, it's the dread of the environment or the dread of the situation I'm in, rather than actually being actively jump scared, you know? I really like it. All right, let's continue.
And this is largely what leads to Resident Evil 2's success.
Yeah.
It follows up on the first game by giving people more of what they loved
and a
lot of what they didn't know they wanted. Many
As of March this year, RE6 has sold 9.6 million copies. That's more than Final Fantasy 16 sold, right? And 16 was a critically acclaimed, amazingly well-received game. Where RE6 is very, very contested and very much people may not like it. Yeah. There's no way this model came out a year ago. No. This came out about 4 months ago. I'm saying it will be a year when RE9 comes out. Yeah. When RE9 comes out, it'll be the 1-year anniversary. It's on the day of the anniversary. That's what I was saying. I've never seen a high-res RE2 before. The quality of the visuals is amazing. I almost wonder if this is the GameCube version. Or they're playing on an upscaled emulator. It might be. Yeah.
Areas have been upgraded. The story has a wild amount of depth when compared to the first game, introducing more characters, branching paths for the different scenarios in the game, and subtlety and complexity to the narrative.
Yeah, there's a lot more scenes that actually take place. It's not just, hey, go. It's a lot more story driven, and you go from story beat to story beat to story beat. Whereas Resident Evil 1 is very much explore the mansion. Here it's investigate the RPD, find Marvin. Marvin tells you that you have to look for other survivors. You find Claire and Sherry. From there, it's, okay, now we need to find a way to get out. You run into Ada. You run into Ben. The only way that Ben can help you get out is if you go look into some other stuff. He tells you about how you can get out via the sewers. Now you start looking for ways to get out through the sewers. And it sends you on these small adventures while the overall goal is still the same. But it feels a lot more thought out.
While Resident Evil 2 doesn't propel the series to Shakespearean heights, it does improve upon the first game's often clunky and awkward story.
Agreed.
And in doing so, it also retains the things that made the first game special. Yeah. Resident Evil 2 still feels like a B horror movie in most regards, but a B horror movie with a larger world and more fleshed out characters.
I will also say, I think Leon and Claire as characters in their respective scenarios both have oodles more charisma than any of the RE1 cast. And, you know, instead of being just terrified of the situation that they're in, both of them are incredibly driven to do what they have to do. It's like, ironically, they almost start the trek of moving away from horror very fast from Resident Evil 1, where it's Resident Evil 1 feels like everyone's scared, everyone's terrified. And it's RE2, everyone's scared, everyone's terrified, but they're fighting back against it, and it's so much more obvious. You know? I like it a lot. I think it's funny talking about it more. You find more and more things that you know about the nuances of it. Just like the nuances of Teebs. Hi, Teebs! Hi, Teebs Raid, the Frex are here! Welcome in, Raiders. My name's Roy Chiato. Like a macchiato, I am a coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I absolutely love working out, in case you didn't see today's progress pics on YouTube, if you want to see some flexing. So, but yeah, come hang out. We are watching the Resident Evil 2 retrospective from Your Favorite Son. It is a YouTuber that I really, really enjoy their deep dives and behind-the-scenes content for, and I reached out to them on Twitter to make sure that they were okay with me reacting to their content, and which they were totally cool with it. So, love this stuff. I think they are very, very well articulated in their opinions. Very fun series so far. We've only watched 2 videos, but now we're on to Resident Evil 2 after we finished Resident Evil 2 Original and Resident Evil 2 Remake. Yeah. I'm also a devout Ada X Leon shipper. Oh, I like that. Teebs, thank you for the 14 months. I appreciate it. How was your stream? What were you up to tonight? They're base characters? Based on what? Based on what, Chimmy? Based on what? What do you mean? What do you mean? What's crazy is I had a similar scenario working as a caregiver. The protecting thing? Or the scared but have to move forward? What's up, Vortex? Good to see you. Hey, cheers to you too. All right, let's continue.
The gameplay has been upgraded, introducing new options
Way
for
better.
weapons, more monsters, and a few dynamic systems into the Resident Evil world. Being the first sequel in the series, though, it bears the responsibility that the moniker carries with it. The large stamped number 2 rushes through the player's mind as they pick up the game case.
It's ironic, too, because despite it being Resident Evil 2, it doesn't really have that much to do with Resident Evil 1. There are connections to be made, like the STARS office, because, hey, like, you knew STARS was a thing. But, like, Chris isn't in the game. Jill isn't in the game. Wesker, Barry, Rebecca, Brad. Well, Brad, kind of. They're not in the game. But things that they mention are, you know, being from Raccoon City, being a part of STARS, so the police department. And it's almost interesting in that way because it's 2, but it doesn't really have anything to do with the first one, or at least not that much. It's loosely connected. Do all the games act like this? Actually, kind of. Resident Evil 3 is more of a side sequel, because while it is the next game in the series, the first half of Resident Evil 3 actually takes place before Resident Evil 2, but it's like during the crisis of it. And then while Jill is asleep, all of Resident Evil 2 happens, and then Jill wakes up, and then the rest of Resident Evil 3 happens. Yeah. So that's like the only time that it's like two games are almost going on at the same time. Because it's literally like get to the halfway point with Jill. Jill passes out in Resident Evil 3. And then all of Resident Evil 2 happens because it's while the city is overrun with zombies. It's still in Raccoon City. Jill even goes to the RPD. You see Brad get killed and infected. So Jill literally sleeping through all of RE2 is so hilarious. It is actually very funny because she gets infected by Nemesis, and then Carlos has to go get the vaccine from the nearby hospital. And while she's asleep and Carlos is in the hospital, Leon and Claire go ruin the Umbrella Labs and defeat Birkin and save Sherry. It's super funny. I think that's a more interesting approach to a sequel, letting it be a standalone, but also building upon the world on RE. I like it that way too. What's up, Zephyr? But it's almost funny because you look at like Silent Hill 2, and Silent Hill 2 has literally nothing to do with the first Silent Hill. And I think that might be why they went with Silent Hill 2 instead of a Silent Hill 1 remake, because at least Silent Hill 2, you could have zero connection, zero familiarity with Silent Hill 1, and you could still enjoy Silent Hill 2. And ironically, I think RE2 is kind of the same. Stars was disbanded by Irons. I thought he more so put them on like administrative leave because he refused to listen to them. So Chris was like, well, I'm going to use all my vacation time and go to Europe, in which he was actually chasing Umbrella. Jill, however, was like actively trying to be like, hey, Umbrella's bad. Stuff's going to happen. And then stuff started happening, and Jill was like, hey, stuff's going down. Umbrella bad. And then Irons disgraced her and ran her name through like the papers and the mud and everything. It was very unfortunate. Barry left because he wanted to protect his family. Rebecca, I think, ducked out of there hella early. So, and then Wesker died. So, yeah.
As they boot up the product for the first time, anticipation rises in the...
Bro, what is the... This menu's so clean. I have to know what this mod is. What the heck?
Their veins, and expectation takes hold. 2. Does this game have 2 times the amount of enemies, 2 times the amount of story, 2 times the amount of Rebecca Chambers?
Well, no to the Rebecca Chambers, but yes to everything else.
But as they say, heavy is the head that wears the crown.
True.
Does Resident Evil 2 bear the responsibility of a sequel? This is the question that I'll try to answer today as I dive into Resident Evil 2. I'll be talking about gameplay, story, and...
I think it absolutely does. I forgot about he loves Rebecca. True. Silent Hill 1 and 3 are connected? Yes, they are. And some people say that 2 and 4 are connected as well, but it's a little bit harder to prove that. Sort of to the cult in 1. I think it's more so to 2. But then again, it's like... I'm going to lurk until I fall asleep. No worries. Thanks for hanging out with us for as much as you could. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions about Resident Evil as a whole, please feel free to ask. While I am not as versed in Resident Evil as I am in Power Rangers, I can tell you I still do know a lot about Resident Evil. It's one of my favorite game franchises of all time. Yippee!
Everything in between. If you haven't seen my previous video on Resident Evil...
Can someone help me take my jacket off real quick? I gotta... Hold on, let me just... Yeah. Whew. That was more difficult than it should have been. That was way more difficult than it should have been. What happened? What happened there? What happened there? That jacket just did not want to get off. Oh my goodness. Okay,
1, I would highly recommend checking that out.
We did.
While spoilers aren't that important yet, this series is meant to represent each era of the Resident Evil franchise.
True.
And it's not mandatory, but watching that video would provide ample context for this one.
Lots of context, but also the context of Crab. Hey, thank you so much for the raid on the Twitch side. Welcome in, Raiders. My name's Roy Chiato. Like a macchiato, I'm a coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I love working out. In case you didn't see today's workout progress pictures, I hope you guys are doing fantastic. We're reacting to the Resident Evil 2 retrospective. If you would like to come join us, we only just got started. I'm going to be pausing a lot, just like I do with Power Rangers. That way I can yap about the franchise, and I freaking love it. So, welcome in.
Also, if you enjoy the video, consider liking and subscribing to the channel, as it really helps me out. 60%
that way I
of
don't
you are
forget.
Not currently subscribers to the
Oh,
channel,
he got the numbers.
60% of you are my more.
Wait a minute. Audience. $67%. Oh, I'm a little bit better off than he is. 67% of you watching on my audio roleplay channel are not subscribed, which means 67% of you on the audio roleplay channel are my mortal enemy. Anyway.
Mortal enemies, and all that can be ended with the click of a button.
True.
Spoilers for Resident Evil 2. Hey Dad, it's me, your favorite son.
Hey Dad.
And today I'd like to talk about Resident Evil 2.
Hi son.
With the release of Resident Evil 1, Capcom had found themselves a smash hit.
True.
It was the best-selling PlayStation game of the time, and even the ports were bringing in considerable players.
Yeah, I was going to say, because Resident Evil 1 got ported like 3 or 4 times in like a year or two. It's crazy. It had a PC port. It had a Saturn port. It had like 2 more PlayStation 1 versions. One is the director's cut. One is like the director's cut with DualShock. Like, there were so many versions of RE1 that got ported just in the era of PlayStation 1 and those consoles, you know?
It was clear that the game needed a sequel, but what that sequel would look like wasn't always as
What I kind of the
clear.
DS port. No, I'm just talking about the
Yoshiki
1990s.
Okamoto wanted the series to spawn many entries that were self-contained. He saw it as something like Gundam or James Bond, where you...
Oh. I mean... That's a good way of looking at it. And that's, for a while, Resident Evil was like that. Because, like, once 2 and 3 happened, you were kind of done with that. You were done with the Raccoon City story. And then Code Veronica happened, and that was very self-contained. You know, obviously Claire's in it, and, like, she might make references to things that happened in Resident Evil 2. And Chris is in it, and he might talk about things that happened in Resident Evil 1, like his relationship with Wesker. And then Resident Evil 4 happens, and that has nothing to do with almost any other Resident Evil except 2 because of Leon and Ada's relationship. And then Resident Evil 5 happens, which really only ties back into, like, Code Veronica and 1, kinda, again, just for Chris's relationship with Wesker. You know? I like that. I think that's a good... Yeah. Didn't I say Saturn? I think I said Saturn already. PC, Saturn, and then PS1. Even more. But yeah, back to Resident Evil 2.
Weren't as attached to the overarching story as you were the one right in front of you. Okamoto also recognized the importance of creating a sequel to a successful first outing. If we successfully launch a title like Biohazard by chance, but then messed up on 2, we can't be trusted as a company.
It's true.
If you let your ace pitcher take the mound 2 days after his last, and he ends up injuring his shoulder, you'll still let him pitch as your ace, whether it's 4 or 5 days after his last, and he'll definitely get a win. That's the sort of usage I want to see.
Whoa, what an analogy. Wait, that's kind of crazy. Okay.
The team developing Resident Evil 2 recognized that a sequel had a responsibility to not only provide more of what fans wanted, but also to iterate and expound upon the things that fans loved in the first place. Shinji Mikami,
I forgot there were live action trailers. I don't know if I've ever seen that live action trailer of RE2. Whoa. I think what I don't like is there's so much time skip between games after Veronica. Yeah, because Code Veronica is still in 1998. It's the same year as Resident Evil 2. However, Code Veronica to Resident Evil 5 or Resident Evil 4 is 7 years. And then 4 to 5 is 4 years. And Revelations, I think, is like the same year as 5 or like a couple months before it. Something like that. And then it just keeps getting crazier and crazier as it goes on. Absolutely. The John Romero RE2 ads, they were in Japan only, I think. I'll have to check them out afterwards. Hey, take care, Umineko. Thank you for hanging out with us. Take care, sleep well. I keep being like, it's so early, and then I look and it's like, we've been streaming for an hour and 15 minutes. Oh, oopsies. RPD, Roy's pretty decent. Wait, decent or decent? I guess I am pretty decent. It's true. Thanks, Monokuma. I appreciate it.
Director of the first game would return to develop Resident Evil 2, but he wasn't returning to his familiar director's chair, but rather the role of producer. Hideki Kamiya would end up taking on the director's role in the second game. Kamiya didn't have a lot of experience in game development up to this point. His first gig was as the system planner on Resident Evil 1. His second role was working on a game called Arthur 2 Astaroth.
Is that Firebrand? That looks like Firebrand. Oh, it is, because this is Arthur, like Ghosts and Goblins.
Nazo Makai Mura, Incredible Tunes, an entry in the Incredible Machine series.
You mean Ghosts and Ghouls? Or Ghosts and Goblins?
Directing Resident Evil 3 was his third gig, and frankly, it was his golden opportunity to step up to the plate and show Capcom what he could do.
I mean, he did it. RE2 was a banger, and then he went on to help with Devil May Cry, and then left to do The Evil Within 1 and 2, which I think were both actually really good. I think at worst, both those games are an 8 out of 10. At worst. I think 1's narrative is better, but I think 2's everything else is better. But together, I think it's a solid 8 experience. If you play them like together. I'm so sad that got shut down. I'm genuinely sad that we're never going to get another Evil Within. I think that was such an interesting world and an interesting concept, especially for a horror entry. It was good. I'm mad that we didn't get another.
Kamiya would have a prolific career across video
Tango,
games
yeah.
after this, directing the first Devil May Cry game,
there it is.
Beautiful Joe.
I didn't know he directed Beautiful Joe. I thought he was just involved in it.
Okami.
I didn't know that he... Wait. Did he direct Bayonetta or did he just work? Wait, I thought he just worked on these games.
Bayonetta, the list goes on, but this was just the beginning.
Okay.
In the beginning of development, Mikami and Kamiya would disagree on many different aspects of the game. This would lead to other members of the team being unsure who they should take orders.
Well, I might be getting it mixed up. Shinji Mikami may have been the one that split off to work on Evil Within. Hideki Kamiya was the one that split off to do things like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. That would probably make more sense.
From Mikami eventually realized his role on this new game and tried to take a step back. He would check in on production every month or so to ensure things were going along smoothly, but left Kamiya and the team to their own devices. This eventually led to Mikami checking in one day to realize that the game was not nearly up to his standards.
Oh.
I left the work of 1.5 to the young staff, but
I forgot about
the ingredients were good to a certain extent, so it was just a matter of cooking. Even if it wasn't good, I thought it would probably be fixed in 3 months. However, when I opened the lid, I found the dish's level of saltiness to be lacking, so we decided to remake it from scratch.
Which you can still kind of find today. I think there's an online playable version of Resident Evil 1.5 because there's an entire character that got scrapped because it wasn't supposed to be Claire. It was supposed to be a female officer in like red and pink by the name of Elza Walker. And you can find costumes for her for Claire because like this was all very public knowledge because I think they showed that off. I'm pretty sure they showed off Resident Evil 1.5 in like early playtests and demos and being like, here comes Resident Evil 2. And like they'd show it with Elza Walker, you know? Lila, thank you for the member. I appreciate it. She was a cop? I think she was a cop. Isn't she wearing a cop outfit? I thought she was a motorcycle cop. You got me.
You see, the version of the game that the team was working on up to this point would be referred to later as Resident Evil 1.5. It wasn't billed this way, it was actually revealed and marketed as Resident Evil 2, because that's what it was supposed to be. But when the game was around 60 to 80% complete, Mikami and the team realized it just wasn't where it needed to be, and he ordered the entire thing scrapped to be built.
Which is an insane thing to do, especially because remember, keep this in mind. Keep this in mind, ready? Resident Evil 1 came out in 1996. So, Resident Evil 1 comes out. It is a smashing success. Not even 2 years later, they're already starting to put out Resident Evil 2. 60 to 80% of the way through development, they scrap the entire thing and start over. And it still came out 2 years later. That's insane. Game developers were built diffy in the 90s, let me tell you.
Back from the ground up.
It was insane.
This version of the game is now
there she is.
Resident Evil 1.5, and many things changed in remaking the project. While Resident Evil 2 introduces 2 new characters in that of Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield, the original version of the game had a character named Elza Walker instead of Claire. Elza was a motorcycle riding student heading...
Oh, there you go. She was just a biker. My bad.
...into Raccoon City for her first day at university. She would end up crashing into the police department after realizing that the city was overrun and would hole up inside. The story of the game would follow similar beats, but would include more characters that were eventually cut. In this version of Resident Evil 2, Umbrella was shut down for its illegal research that was uncovered in the first game. Obviously, Resident Evil 1.5 was scrapped, and the only thing that people had for some time was screenshots and short presentations from promotional material. That was until 2013, when a development build of the game leaked.
I'm not gonna lie, I've never played Resident Evil 1.5. I've never played that build. I've never seen someone play it. I'm just familiar with it. I'm kind of tempted. Maybe once we finish like the retrospective, we go back and we play it as like a kind of like, ooh. I have to like see the logistics of how I can play that, because I think that would be super cool, right? Would that be dope? The 90s were a creative time. You should, yeah.
If you're interested, that build is still out there and is still playable today, though this build was never finished, so it's not the full game.
Yeah, it's like 60 to 80% done, right?
It's a surprisingly deep subject on its own, because supposedly there's a rumor of another build out there from far later in development that just never surfaced. Regardless, after restarting development, the game was delayed and it was crafted into the Resident Evil 2 that we'll talk about today.
That'd be a fun bonus stream. I think so too. That still blows my mind, dude. Entire game scrapped. 60 to 80% of the way done, redone. Game ends up a masterpiece. Insane. There's one other game that did that, and I'm so curious what it would have been like had we actually gotten it, because the finished product did not look that different from the gameplay trailers we saw. And that's Resident Evil 7. That's Final Fantasy 7 Remake. Because FF7 Remake actually ran into the same thing. Square Enix put CyberConnect 2 in charge of working on Final Fantasy 7 Remake. And we saw really early gameplay stuff. And it looked very reminiscent of the things that they had done with .hack and .hack GU. And I was, as a huge .hack fan, I was very excited. I was so excited. However, ultimately, CyberConnect 2 was fired, and they scrapped what they had done with them and then started over. And now we have the comments, which I think is still great. But I'm so curious what could have been with that version of Final Fantasy 7 Remake. I never knew this. Yeah, that's why like FF7 Remake was supposed to be like a late PS3 title, but it had so many like development hiccups that it kept getting delayed and then just got pushed into the PS4. And then it was a late PS4 game because it came out like what, 2019, 2020? That's insane. Yeah. Fired the entire combat directive team. Yeah, just like, oh my God. I actually used to complain about this all the time because I think it was more common knowledge back then. It feels like it's become more obscure knowledge. In case you guys didn't know, one of Resident Evil 4's first builds was so vastly different from Resident Evil 4 that they ended up scrapping it, keeping a piece of it, and then turned that into Devil May Cry, which is why we have Devil May Cry. And Kamiya broke off to do that. So, was it the same as the PS3 tech demo? No, that was just a tech demo. Yeah. Anytime someone says what, I'm like, are you guys memeing or not? Because like I'm such a Resident Evil head that like it almost became a meme in Resident Evil where it's like, huh, did you know Resident Evil 4 actually became Devil May Cry? Also explains why DMC 1 felt eerie. Yeah, they just decided that it felt too different from Resident Evil and decided to turn it into something else. To be fair, we actually had a couple games that were like that. Haunting Grounds was another one, which was another Capcom horror survival game. Yep, see? Did you know Resident Evil, your mom? That's crazy.
Resident Evil 2 was officially released on January 21st, 1999.
Oh, it was 1999.
In North America.
My apologies.
January 29th, 1999 in Japan.
I thought it was 98.
And April 29th, 1999.
I guess I was close. I was like a month or two off.
All for the Sony PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
Now, it wouldn't be a video on a Resident Evil game if I didn't first talk about the lengthy ports and various versions of this game.
There are... Is it two versions on the PS1, the DualShock version and the non-DualShock version? And then there's not a PS2 port, but there is a GameCube port. There's also a PC port. There's the GOG version, and now there's a PS5 or PS4, PS5 version also coming out. It actually comes out this month. I'm sad that we already caught up to it in the retrospective. I'm kind of hoping that the Resident Evil 3 version comes out next week so we can start that with the PS4, PS5 version, because I really like playing those on my PS5, you know?
There's a fantastic write-up on the website Strategy Wiki.
I forgot there was an N64 version. That's right. It had like green blood. I also forgot there was a Dreamcast version because that's where originally Code Veronica was.
That lists all of the versions and their differences, just in case you're interested.
Yeah.
The original PlayStation version is the vanilla version of the game.
Very vanilla.
True to spirit, but it also doesn't have any of the added features of the later entries.
Yeah, like the big thing, and I think this is what we played on stream, because I didn't realize what arranged meant. Arranged rebalances the game somewhat, but also adds quick turn and auto aiming. So like when you aim down sights, it will snap to a target, which became a staple for Resident Evil 3, Code Veronica, 1 Remake, and 0. Yeah, I can't believe we played this and beat it without that. That's crazy.
Just like the first game shortly after its release, Resident Evil was re-released with a DualShock version. It was released in August of 1998.
Wait.
Just a few months after the initial release of Resident Evil 2.
Wait, so he just said 1998. Did Resident Evil 2 come out in 98? Chat? Does he mean 99? Did he mean 99? I think it was an error on the part. It was 98. Wait, so I was right. It did come out in 98. One moment. I will bite this apple while I'm waiting. Apple. $1998. That's crazy. That's crazy. I wonder if there's a comment about it. Thank God there's not. It was a year of video game greatness. Ocarina of Time, RE2, among other heavy hitters. True. Yeah, top comment. Was it? Correction, I mistakenly... Oh, listed the release year for the game as 1999, but the game actually was in 1988. Okay. Anyway.
This, of course, included DualShock functionality, but also a newly introduced rookie mode that made the game a bit easier, and an extreme battle mode. Despite these new features, the graphics stayed...
Extreme battle mode was what later became... What's it called? Not Survivor. What is it called? Oh my God. Mercenaries. Jeez, I don't know why I couldn't remember that.
Mostly the same. The Nintendo 64 version of the game was released in November of 1999 and is one of the strangest versions of Resident Evil 2. It contained adjustable gore level.
Yeah, this is what I remember. And then I think you can change the color of the blood too. Like it had like blue, green, and like purple blood, didn't it?
A randomizer, extra outfits for characters. Yeah. The most impressive part of this version of the game, though, is that Resident Evil 2 originally came on 2 discs, and this version condensed that into 1 cartridge.
Which is crazy to think about. Because, like, when you think about later consoles with, like, Nintendo versus Sony, you always think that PlayStation has to be stronger than an N64. But was it? Because I hear this a lot, where like somehow they managed to like fit certain things on the N64, and then other times like the N64 wasn't powerful enough, so they went to the PlayStation 1, and I'm like, what's the truth? Where's the truth? I have to know. That's interesting, true. RE2 did fit on a single CD. Maybe I think they wanted to keep it separate because disc 1 is Leon, disc 2 is Claire. You know, original PS1 was only 32-bit. Oh, I didn't realize that.
Which is pretty impressive. That does mean that the FMVs had to be pretty heavily compressed, though, so they don't look great. There was some extra story content added to this version of the game as well, called the X-Files.
Oh, I have like... It felt like I was going to sneeze, and I was like... Ooh, okay. I think I'm okay.
But we'll talk about those later. The Dreamcast version was released in December of 1999 and didn't add anything particularly notable outside of being able to view your health status on a VMU. The Windows 9X version of the game was released in February of 1999 and contained all of the added features from the DualShock version, but also included a gallery mode with unlockable art and character models. The models and graphics were heavily upgraded in this version, so it does look a bit nicer on...
I was about to say, something about the way the zombies were moving, it looked like that, yeah.
That front. The GameCube version of the game was released in January of
2003. There it is.
It was based on the DualShock version of the game and has all of the extra content included in that release. But the graphics have been improved, the FMV sequences run at a higher frame rate, and models are particularly smooth.
Isn't that crazy how pretty this looks? This is the GameCube upscaled from PS1. You know? That's crazy. It was the GameCube. Yeah, that's what I thought.
There was technically one more version of the original game called the Game.com version, which...
I forgot about this.
Wasn't really a port as much as it was a demake. It was a shorter and simpler version of the game, as if it was ported to a Game Boy Advance or something.
Yeah.
It also only contained Leon's side of the story, with a Claire version being planned, but it was canceled before it could be completed.
That's crazy.
And then, of course, in 2019, Resident Evil 2...
Two sides to every story!
Was fully remade from the ground up for PlayStation 4, Windows, and Xbox One. I will talk about this version in a later section of the video because it's so drastically different from the original version of the game.
I mean, of course
it
is.
Its own section.
It's a remake, you know?
Which version of the game did I mainly play for this video?
I'd imagine
I tried out most of the ports that I listed above just to see how they
version
played and felt. I ended up liking the GameCube version the most, and the nice thing about the GameCube version is that a graphical overhaul has been created by some dedicated fans called the Seamless HD project. This makes the game look a lot more smooth if you like that kind of thing.
I mean,
I generally would have kept the original graphics, but I figured it would make for better footage for use in this video.
I mean,
Before we talk about the game itself, we need to talk about routes. In Resident Evil 1, you could play the game two ways. You could play as Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine.
Yeah, but there wasn't really a difference.
These characters led to effectively the same results as far as the story was concerned. The same outcome was reached,
footage of
but
me
the
trying
way
to
you
shoot this
reached
zombie
it was a little different. In Jill's story, you were accompanied by Barry, and in Chris's story, you were accompanied by Rebecca Chambers. While this basic structure is still true for Resident Evil 2, it expands upon this idea and takes it a bit further. When starting the game, we have the option of either playing Claire at the beginning or Leon. But this choice will set us down a path.
Yeah.
This choice is between the two A scenarios in the game.
So that is immediately one of my favorite things about classic RE2. And unfortunately, it is the one weakness I think RE2 Remake has. RE2 Original, the B scenarios do feel different than the original A scenarios. But RE2 Remake, it's like a different start, kind of, for the RPD. And then, like, as soon as you're into sewers, it, like, doesn't matter anymore, which is crazy to think about.
We either start out by playing Leon A or Claire A. After playing this route through, we can then play through the opposite character's B scenario.
Yeah.
This shows us what was happening to the other character while we were killing zombies and trying to escape the police station.
So for our playthrough, we played Claire A, Leon B, which is what I've heard is the canon to RE2 original.
For example, if we play Leon's A scenario first, then we will play Claire's B scenario second and complete the story in the process.
Yep.
Of course, once you're done with these, you can play back through Claire's A scenario and then Leon's B scenario.
Bro, I would have screamed. I actually would have screamed if that happened to me mid-playthrough.
Scenario to see a bit of a difference in the story. It is honestly a bit confusing, but there's effectively two routes to take. Playing Leon's side first or Claire's side first. We'll talk about canonicity and all of that stuff later because it's complicated and honestly not really important, but I first played Leon A and then Claire B.
I think that's what most people do. Leon A feels like the most natural way to do it because I think the first disc on the PS1 is Leon's disc. So Leon A, Claire B is what most people did. But then from what I've been told and what we've experienced, Claire A, Leon B is the canon scenario.
Most people maintain that Claire A and then Leon B is the definitive version of the game.
Yeah.
And after I go through the main story, we can talk about why. But let's first talk about the game and the progression of its narrative. Resident Evil 2 begins as we see a recap of the events that occurred in the first game.
We just played this. I forgot there was a recap of RE1. I genuinely forgot already.
We're told that the case around the mansion and the outbreak.
How many bullets does it take to take down a zombie? I'd say like anywhere from like 4 to like 12. Because it felt like zombies had random health or could randomly stumble or you could randomly get a headshot.
There was closed, that the STARS members, that's Special Tactics and Rescue Service, completed the job. But this isn't entirely true because Umbrella is still experimenting to this day.
Yeah, so I love it. I love how they do explain this very casually in the opening, but you find it more in files. So because Chief Irons, the police chief, is in Umbrella's pocket, you know, he's being funded by them to kind of keep their secrets. Umbrella's like, hey, yo, Irons, Chris, Barry, Jill, Rebecca. Yeah, they survived. They shouldn't have. Don't listen to a word they say. And if they try and talk about us in the papers negatively, you stop them, you smear them, you do whatever you can do to make them look terrible and unbelievable. And it works. It just straight up works, which is insane. You know, you'd think that 4 survivors all having the same story would be believed more, but they didn't have any evidence. I guess technically 5 if you count Brad, but yeah.
We then see one of the new protagonists, Leon, as he heads into Raccoon City for his first day on the job. Leon is a newly hired police.
Also really funny. I hope he mentions it. Leon's late to his first day because he got hung over the day before, or was hung over today because his girlfriend cheated on him and broke up with him. So he went out drinking and was hungover. And that is canon. Though I think they rewrote that basically for RE2 original. That he was called and told to stay away.
Police officer for the RPD. The streets of Raccoon City are quiet as Leon rolls into town, and shortly after his entrance, he finds a body lying in the center of the street.
They got the change in Remake. What, you don't want Leon to have missed dying because he was hungover? That's crazy.
Strange monster nearby at a truck stop and a driver being bitten. Leon is then swarmed by zombies, trying to take every action he can before firing his weapon. First day on the job and all. But once the seal is broken, Leon starts emptying his magazine. He sees a nearby door open and an uninfected woman inside. He saves her and they both take a cruiser into the city to try and find the solace of the police station.
The only freaking time you'll ever fight a zombie where you get a one-shot headshot. So he's single. I mean, he's definitely trying to get with Hunnigan or Ada, or both. You know what I mean? Leon unlucky streak with girls started before the game. Real. Super true.
On the drive over, we learn that Claire is in search of her brother, Chris Redfield, one of the STARS members that we played in the first game. Leon gives Claire a gun to protect herself before the two are startled by a zombie in the back seat. This leads to them crashing into a pole down the road before the bitten truck driver crashes his vehicle into theirs.
I still hate it that they just didn't check the back seat. They get into the police vehicle and just didn't check the back seat to see if it was occupied. Like, what the heck? Come on, guys.
This causes a massive explosion and separates the two characters. This is where we begin Leon's story, stranded on the streets of Raccoon City, weaving through the alleys in an attempt to find the police department.
Yeah.
In this introduction sequence, we see the first of many massive improvements to the Resident Evil series.
So many zombies on screen at the same time.
In live action cutscenes, Capcom has created full CG FMVs for this entry.
I mean, they look dated, but they do what they need to do, and I don't think they look that bad. You know what I mean? They look like they're from the 90s, but they're definitely not terrible.
While they clearly look very of their time, they are extremely unique and add a distinct style to this entry. The
horror movie rules, of course, they would. True.
Give the game a unique action feel.
Very true.
While the first game's live action,
and the novelization, Leon had a deagle. There's a novelization of RE2. Whoa. I didn't know that.
Action scenes generated a B-movie horror. These sequences wind up as an aura of tension. The first game had CG sequences as well, but they were used far more sparingly than in Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, there were scenes in RE1 where it was like, oh, you found, Kenneth's body or something like that. Head rolls off. And that's it. Or the freaking hunter spawning in for the first time and it running through 7 different rooms to get to you. Pfft.
The second feature that Resident Evil 2 introduces is the aspect of a widened world. We start in the streets of
Oh yeah, so it's a lot more, what's the right way of saying it? Because it's obviously a 3D game, but it felt very much in RE1. You could go forward or you could go backwards. There wasn't really a lot of room on the other sides though to kind of wiggle past. But when you play RE2, it's hey, what if we actually gave you a third dimension to move in? And that's what they immediately expect you to do here, which is always crazy to me. This opening is wild. Yeah, multi-directional is probably accurate.
Raccoon City, and we get to see what's become of this place. The scope of the world is broadened, no longer just centralized to a mansion and an underground section, but a city. And if there's a city, this means there's a world. Leon quickly pushes through the streets and manages to find himself inside of Kendo's gun store.
Meanwhile, as Claire, I think I got bit like 3 times there because I was just like, I was being goofy. I was like, watch this, guys, gets bit. Watch this, guys, gets bit. Watch, gets bit.
Kendo himself is aiming a shotgun at his face. He lowers the weapon once he realizes that Leon hasn't been turned. We can pick up some ammo from the gun shop, but the owner is quickly overcome by the outside horde. If we are quick enough, we can actually pick up his shotgun before leaving, providing us with an early game power boost that's quite substantial.
Yeah, the shotgun this early is insane. Yeah, shotgun this early was wild. Really.
Leon exits through the back door, and we're once again thrust into the alleys of Raccoon City, forced to find our way through the hordes of monsters. Just like the first game in the series, Resident Evil 2 has some absolutely gorgeous backgrounds. All of the backgrounds are pre-rendered and smooth. They're incredibly detailed, and while some of the police station ends up a bit more simple, the streets of Raccoon City are some of the best environments in the game.
Which is why RE3 has such high regard in the Resident Evil fandom. Because like when you go back and look at Resident Evil 3, you're going up and down the streets. You're going in and out of like local shops and you know, popular places and things like that. And it's crazy to think about that you have so many different detailed environments, and it really breathes life into Raccoon City, especially between 2 and 3 alone. There's so much life in the world between those 2 games.
The fake watch ads on the billboards, the back alleys littered with trash and lost items, the narrow graffiti-filled stairways. It all sets a perfect tone for the upcoming story. This place, the city, is not somewhere that we want to be. We need to get somewhere safe, a stronghold, a representation of protection. The police station. But just like the first game, this supposed bastion of hope will become a house of terror before long. Leon finally arrives at the police station to find this place derelict.
The Chris background, me too.
The expected
it helps a lot.
It
just looks so good.
Leagues of undead are nowhere to be found. One officer does remain, one that's already wounded. Martin Branagh apologizes that they couldn't have a welcome party for him.
Poor Martin. Oh my God. Or Marvin, rather. Marvin's such a good character, especially in Remake. Like, you really feel for him, you know? You really feel for Marvin. Yeah, 07's for Marvin. Absolutely.
He also tells Leon about Chris, Jill, Rebecca, and Barry, the 4 STARS members that risked their lives to tell people about what happened at the mansion. He suspects that Umbrella is behind this outbreak as well. He gives Leon a key card and tells him not to worry about him, to rescue anyone that he can, to save himself.
There's
at this point, we can
only Claire, Sherry, Ada, and Ben technically left in the RPD. I think everyone else is dead. That's crazy. I kind of wish there were more situations where you saw people dying. You know, because like we see Kendo die right at the beginning. But then I kind of agree with you know, Sun here, where it's like you get here and it's immediately drab. It's empty. There's no one here. Oh, Iron counts, right? Iron counts. But like there's no just individual officers. You know? It would have been nice to see like 1 or 2 officers, even if they end up dying. It would have been kind of cool to like see like an NPC officer like kill a zombie and then not realize there was a zombie behind them and get bitten from behind, kind of thing. How does Irons die? He gets attacked by Birkin and either just gets killed by Birkin or gets infected with a G parasite, and then the G parasite bursts out of his chest. Yeah, which is ironic because it's how it happens with Ben too. It literally just depends on the scenario. So like Leon B, Ben dies because Birkin just kills him. But in a scenario, Birkin infects Ben, and then you have to fight the G adult. Still don't like Brad as a character, or that they killed him in this game? Or both? There's B scenario where we see how 2 people die because of god-awful aim. Oh, with the helicopter? With the dude that shoots the zombies on the roof and then can't hit the zombies, so he shoots the helicopter pilot? Yeah, it's wild.
start exploring the police station, trying to uncover its mysteries and find a safe way out of this place. So how does Resident Evil 2 play? Resident Evil 2, just like the first game in the series, uses tank controls. We aim our character in a direction before moving forward, making adjustments with the D-pad on the way. We aim weapons and fire them either
glasses mode for the bun,
down with the D-pad to aim at enemies above or below. Just like its predecessor, Resident Evil 2 is a game about resource management. It isn't quite an inventory management simulator like I mentioned Resident Evil felt like, but it is quite heavy on dealing with inventory space and items. Each item...
I will fully agree to that because both Leon and Claire have 8 inventory slots from the get-go, which is what Jill had in RE1, and Chris only has 6. 6 definitely feels terrible.
Takes up a space in our inventory, a valuable space. We always have the choice between offense and defense.
While Resident Evil 3 Remake cut a lot of content that I wish they didn't, one of the things that I liked, what they did show was Carlos' segment where they show how the police died in the hallway with the lickers. Oh yeah, because remember the first half of Resident Evil 3 is before Resident Evil 2, so there's a lot of stuff that you do in RPD. I think Bakba Soup was kind of making a joke about it recently too, where he was like, man, it would have been terrible if Jill came back to the RPD instead of Carlos because, you know, Jill would have been able to reminisce about, oh, here's the STARS office. Oh, this is where Irons was. Oh, no, Marvin got bit. That's so terrible. Like, emotional connection. And he's like, no, instead we get Carlos talking about that's a weird freaking door. You know?
Weapons represent aggression. The power to fell your enemies in battle, and killing enemies quick enough means that we don't get hurt at all.
True.
Healing items represent protection, the ability to heal yourself and prevent death and the loss of progress.
Yeah, same content.
We carry the same idea, concept from the previous title for saving.
The remake left out that Carlos was flirting with Jill. I still kind of felt it a little bit. I felt like there were some subtle undertones, but then again, Carlos's voice actor was just... Carlos's voice actor was just kind of like, you know, he was just, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Only save if we have an ink ribbon in our inventory. Not only does this mean that saving is finite, and we can only save as many times as we have an ink ribbon, but it also means that being able to save takes up a slot in our inventory. Combat and exploration have a similar feeling to Resident Evil 1 as well. Each room presents us with enemies that give us a choice to entirely avoid them or to take them out.
Luckily, Resident Evil 2 actually legitimately gave you the option to just outright avoid things. And RE1, it feels like you didn't have that option. RE1 felt like, man, there's a ton of zombies in this room. I gotta take them out. Resident Evil 2 does not feel that way. Resident Evil 2 really does feel like you can run by the majority of the zombies in the game and not have to worry about it. Does Carlos have a hot voice? Yes. Absolutely he does.
Taking out the zombies that have infested the police station means that this area will be safer to travel through later.
Safer, but not safe, just in case there's enemy respawns.
But we have to spend ammunition to do so, paying with the currency of safety as well. It's also worth noting that dodging enemies is far less possible in this entry than it was in the first game.
Really? I feel the opposite of it. I feel like it's way easier to dodge enemies in RE2, but maybe I'm just more used to RE2 than RE1.
A lot of the corridors are far more narrow in the station than they were in the mansion.
I feel the opposite. Wait, am I crazy? Did I gaslight myself into just thinking RE2 is easier than RE1 for that capacity? Am I gaslighting myself? Well, that's crazy.
And the zombies are more numerous, making it a bit more difficult to just sneak past them.
Oh, okay.
And at the end of the day, Resident Evil 2 is still a horror game in a horror series.
True.
At the base level, Resident Evil 2 is still scary. We still fight against horrific creatures and push
scary is
pushing ourselves to run from these things still rises terror in the heart. But Resident Evil 2 deals with a different sort of fear.
I will say, when we played Leon B, ammo was rough. There were so many situations where I was like, I don't have any ammo. I don't know what to do here. And it was rough. They did set it up in the beginning. You'd be surrounded and have to dodge around them if you want to save bullets. Yeah, right in the beginning. That's why I'm like, I feel like they teach you very, very fast, like, hey, maybe running's a little bit better than shooting, you know?
Comes from the change in directors. When speaking about a specific scene
with a knife.
later in the
No, bro, the knife never feels good in Resident Evil. It always feels like a desperation weapon. Like, you knock an enemy down and then knife them a couple times, maybe. But like Resident Evil 4 and 5, where you just have like a knife button where you can just take the knife out, that's always better. We're swapping to water.
Game, Mikami said this: "It's a terror of realism and absurdity.
Okay.
So if I were to do it, it might be a bit plain. I insisted on adding a scene while playing where the tyrant bursts through the wall, but the details of this scene before and after weren't quite as I'd imagined.
Oh.
If I put too much of myself into it, though, the subjective taste of the game's creators would be lost. Subjectivity comes into play one way or another, after all. I think that's what determines the degree of interest."
So making sure to have absurdity and realism combined. That way it's not like too cartoonish, but also not too realistic. Because like sometimes when you play or like play a game or watch a movie and things are like too realistic, it's kind of frustrating. It's like, how can I not make that jump? And it's like a jump that a normal human would never be able to make, kind of thing, you know? Knife? I think you mean party trick. That's crazy.
Kamiya's idea of horror compared to Mikami's is a bit more based in excess. It's about being chased. It's about facing hordes. It's about the insurmountable odds that you're up against. Mikami's horror, Resident Evil 1, was the opposite. What happens when you're starved of resources? When you have to survive on your own? What happens when you exhaust all of your bullets?
Oh, interesting. I mean, we did kind of talk about this before, that like the comparison that I like to make is Resident Evil 1 is Alien. Resident Evil 2 and 3 are Aliens. Because I feel like combat and running and being aggressive are significantly more of an option than they are in RE1. Because RE1 definitely feels very much like, this is a puzzle room. Can you get past this, you know? That's a good analogy. I like that one. As a kid, I remember RE2 and the N64 scaring me, but those were the graphics at the time, and I would just laugh at the polygons. Resource management is a solid go-to for evoking horror in games. Yeah.
You don't get out, you
Absolutely.
still have to face the terrors and survive. In more ways than not, Resident Evil 1 and 2 overlap. They both set themselves in a central location, an old building that eventually lays cover for a secret underground lab.
RPD,
but the pieces where they
and,
don't
Spencer
overlap,
Mansion.
the differences between the two projects, is what makes Resident Evil...
See, look at that. He was talking about how much harder it is to dodge things because there's so much more zombies. Just dodged 5 zombies. What?
2 so interesting. The second entry in the Resident Evil series also returns the structure of puzzles. Most of our time here is spent trying to get keys, items, and objects that will unlock new areas and possibly get us the hell out of this place. In Leon's side of the story, our main goal is to complete puzzles to collect various chess-themed plugs in the interest of unlocking a door to the sewers.
That's always the goal. It's not just Leon's first scenario.
It's also worth noting that this time around, weapons are upgradable. By completing various puzzles in the game, we can get weapon upgrades and combine them with the weapons they are meant for.
I love this feature. I'm still really sad that we did not get the super shotgun, because from what I've been told, the super shotgun is giga busted for Leon. We did get the upgraded Deagle, though, or the upgraded Magnum. And the upgraded Magnum was hella powerful.
Some will increase magazine size, damage, etc. It's a fantastic upgrade and presents more rewards for the player to work towards instead of just more healing items or ammunition.
Super shotgun, my beloved. I'm so sad.
Our ability to fight.
I'm so sad.
Leon makes his way through the station, battling his would-be co-workers as they
would-be co-workers.
Pretty
That's so
early
messed
on,
up.
Leon will run into a new enemy type, the Licker. These mutated beasts crawl on 4 legs, launch at the player, and use their tongues to attack. They luckily rely on their hearing to track their enemies.
Oh yeah, this is the first time and only time we died during Leon's, and then, or not, Leon's during Claire's, and then Leon we died from a liquor jump. We died only to liquors in both Claire's and Leon scenarios.
So if we walk slow,
Damn.
we can potentially avoid them altogether. They are incredibly strong and require a ton of shots to kill. They function quite similarly to the hunters from Resident Evil 1.
I like liquors more than hunters in the context of Resident Evil 2. I think if these were just hunters, I don't think they would have fit in as well. I think the slow, like, of them moving as they're like the feet are like moving along the ground, and then just like the scream of the liquors as well is so like iconic now and terrifying, more so than hunters at times. And also the tongue, and also the fact that they can climb on ceilings. It's so off-putting, and I like liquors more for that reason. I mean, hunters are cool, don't get me wrong, but like for terror factor, like, dude, it's just missing all of its skin. Its brains exposed. It's like Lord Zed.
Except they don't present a massive oppressive change in gameplay and structure. They are here from almost the beginning. This communicates to the player that Resident Evil 2 will be far more intense than the first entry in the series.
Damn, he got bodied. Oh my gosh.
Things will not be as smooth this time around. More enemies, more difficult foes.
I was going to say, I think you have to aim down to get like that blowback effect.
Survival is a requirement. As we make our way through the police department,
pretty sure you have
find
to.
the STARS office, the room where the Special Tactics and Rescue Service did their work. We can find Chris's diary in here where he notes the events after the mansion incident. Chris began trying to take down Umbrella by telling the right people, but nobody would listen to him. As he began to see the newest outbreak start, he realized that he had to do something. Jill and Barry decided to head to Umbrella HQ with him to deal with the issues themselves, keeping this information from Claire to protect her.
Which is so funny because Jill does not actually leave. Jill is in the city, unconscious, as Carlos is getting her cure. You know? Everything goes back to Power Rangers. You're goddamn right it does. You're goddamn right it does.
Claire shows up at the station and Leon gives her the bad news, that her brother isn't here. He then tells her that they need to get out of this place as quickly as possible. The goal now is to look for survivors and then split. Much of the next hour of the game is spent running around the station and solving puzzles.
Hour? Was it an hour? It may have been an hour.
In Resident Evil 1, we had to collect different keys marked with a sword, armor, or shield. These keys would unlock the corresponding doors that matched their symbols. In Resident Evil 2, these keys are now matched with shapes, a diamond key, a club key, a heart key, etc. Getting these keys will allow us entry into other areas of the station. And in most areas of the station, we'll be solving puzzles to get chess piece plugs as rewards and eventually gain access to the underground section of the station.
It was always really funny too because we've got these chess pieces, we've got like these playing card suits, and then Claire gets like these monsters as like stone slates, and it's like, why didn't she get something else? You know, why didn't she get a Connect 4? Dominoes.
Station. One thing that Resident Evil improves greatly is the way that its story is delivered to the player. In the first game, we did have notes and memos that gave us information, but most of these were pretty broken and simple. Oftentimes, they were incomplete or poorly translated.
Right.
And even if they weren't,
like
the information
Itchy Hungry
wasn't exactly groundbreaking. Most of the notes boiled down to, we got attacked by zombies. Oh no. But in Resident Evil 2, not only is the translation of the dialogue and the memos much better, the notes tell a story that is much more interesting.
Yeah, it's not just, oh man, we got eaten by a zombie, how terrible. It's, yeah, so we were working with Chief Irons, and he acted real suspicious. I mentioned this thing to him, and he just lost it. He stuck a gun in my face. I thought he was going to kill me. I don't think I can take this job for much longer. And it's like that throughout the entire thing, and it adds context to characters that you may not have met, or adds context to the scenarios that you're in. It's really cool. So, if I spend my time awake watching Roy, she said, if you like him, I guess, W girlfriend. W girlfriend. Nice job, Kai.
Certain notes that we
That's
find
what I'm talking about.
Secretary
Celebratory apple. 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 Apple.
And will tell us about the police chief. Brian Irons, the chief, was extremely concerned with the statues and art in the building. He was so concerned that he would lash out at anyone that touched the pieces.
It's probably because, like, if they accidentally solved any of the puzzles or, like, accidentally wound up finding Umbrella's lab underneath, everything would be gone to shit.
Most likely because the art was concealing puzzles that would lead anyone who figured them out into the secret areas of the station.
Whoops. I wrote the script.
A little touch that just adds a bit of depth to the game. It honestly feels like the explanation of the mansion's construction in the Resident Evil 1 remake. And a lot of the story follows a similar pattern. Most of the conversations just feel a lot more important. The characters are a bit less one-dimensional, and even though the story is pretty straightforward, it feels like we get a lot more from it. There's little remnants of character and world, like the note we find to Leon from...
Oh, yeah. And you see it, too. Like, when you're in the office that Marvin dies in RE2 Original, and you get back in there, and there's the welcome Leon, and it has the two L's and everything, and, like, the note, and it's, you know, congratulations, welcome to the RPD. You know, like, we're glad to have you. Can't wait to take care of you. Like, that kind of thing. And it's sad because, like, you think about, like, the life that, like, Leon could have had as, like, just a normal cop in Raccoon City, and that's just, you know, it didn't happen.
His
Rip Marvin, I agree.
Co-workers at the RPD.
I agree.
They were wishing him well and were excited to work with him, which makes it all the more difficult to fire shots into these undead.
True.
We'll actually head back into the office and see that Branagh has fully turned, and we have to put him down. Eventually,
it's so sad too because he goes from, like, looking normal to...
Leon makes it to the back roof of the station and finds that a helicopter has crashed into the side of the building. We can put out the fire on it to gain access to another room.
Hell of a first day, true.
Once we get the heart key, we can gain access to another wing of the station, which has a staircase.
I love how the
that leads
dogs,
to an
like,
underground section.
Almost, like, hover in the air. Like, they have, like, a repeat frame when they're shot. Like, look. Shot, just moving. Same exact frame. And then touches the ground, so it has to fly backwards. It's just flying through the air. You freaking dogs, dude.
Section. In the parking lot, we meet a woman in a red dress. She tells
the bitch in the red dress.
Leon that her name is Ada Wong and that she's looking for a reporter locked up in the cell block.
She works for the FBI, guys. She works for the FBI. Yeah.
She can't get through because a police vehicle is blocking the way, so we help her move the thing and get through.
So I see, for technical reasons, they probably couldn't have multiple 3D assets on screen. It's part of the reason the backgrounds of fixed camera angles are presented as they are. It's a visual trick of sorts. So I've heard that as a rumor, but something that I always just assumed, and I know this is confirmed in other game series like Final Fantasy, when you have fixed camera angles or specific, like, shots, you get to show the player exactly what you want them to see. Whereas if you give them control of the camera or allow it to scroll in some cases, you run the risk of maybe them missing the vision that you had for that room or for this scene or for that enemy or for this environment. And you definitely see it in older Final Fantasies and to some capacities, things like FF10 as well, even though it's, PS2. But, like, that forced camera angle makes you see what the developer wanted you to see. And sometimes it's intended to, like, hide a trap. Sometimes it's intended so you see something as spooky or scary or stressful or horrific or exciting even. So, yeah.
Ada immediately
also,
bolts toward the cell block and just leaves Leon behind. She'll do this a lot, actually. It won't be the last time. When we locate Ben, Ada tells him that she's looking for her boyfriend, who goes,
I'm looking for my boyfriend, John. Ada and John.
by the name John.
John.
Then the reporter supposedly had some information about the outbreak going on outside.
I'm looking
John
for my
was working
boyfriend.
for Umbrella,
John.
but disappeared 6 months ago.
Ada, wait!
Ben is playing hard to get and doesn't want to give us any information. He has the key to his own cell, but doesn't want to leave because he figures the cell is probably the safest place for him.
Honestly, he's pretty on point, except for Birkin. The fact that Birkin comes and kills him is definitely one of those like, oh. And then I think the other time is Mr. X kills him. And it's also like, oh, you know? Happens even in 3D games. Forced camera pans are a pull to perspective so you don't miss cool shit. True.
He's dead set on staying here, but tells Leon
You know what I just returned
Ada
from?
that there's a sewer entrance in the kennel room. The sewers should have some way out of the city. Ada abandons us once again, and Leon can head into the sewers. Here we go contend with some incredibly large spiders, which did not bother me because I overcame my fear of spiders in the first video of this series.
Yeah! So, it's so funny because there's only like, I think there's 3 rooms with spiders in RE2, but they give you like a bajillion blue herbs.
Just kidding, I ran right past them.
I mean, I did too. There's no reason to fight them whatsoever. If anything, I feel like you're more likely to get hit if you try and fight them.
Through the sewers, we can find some sort of underground structure and a large door that's locked with a strange mechanism that takes chess piece plugs. This is our overall goal, ensuring that we've obtained every plug from the station and using them to open this door. Since we don't quite have all the plugs we need, we have to exit this door, and on the way out...
I do actually love this. This is one of my favorite constructed things in the game, because they expect you to explore, and this scene doesn't trigger until you find a dead end in the next room, and then you come out here and you're like, man, what do I do? Huh. Ada. What's going on with that Ada? I still like that. You're a blue herb, mods. Untie crabs' shoelaces. Right now. Make their socks wet.
We run into Ada again. The two find a dead end, but a welcoming vent stands above this closed door. Leon boosts Ada into the opening, and she finds herself on the other side. Much like the first game in the series, we will have short sequences where we play our companion character.
Yeah, we have Sherry and Ada, and Ada's was so much easier. But Sherry, I think we only got hit once, and we got it was either flame or grenade rounds.
Though these were used far less frequently in Resident Evil 1,
Damn.
and some of them were even conditional, here they're actually a part of the story, which I feel like is a good change for this game. Those moments in the first game felt great.
Hey, Eric Tessie. Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome in raiders on the Twitch side. My name's Roy Chiato, like a macchiato. I'm a coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I love working out. We are reacting to the retrospective for Resident Evil 2. We're going through the story, behind-the-scenes information, the making of, and all that kind of cool stuff. We're continuing that look back at the Resident Evil franchise as we prepare for Resident Evil 9. So definitely pull up a chair, kick up your feet. Let's have some fun, shall we? Yeah.
And playing Rebecca made you feel closer to the character. It was an additional moment that wasn't entirely necessary, but just felt like an extra touch. In Resident Evil 2, it feels necessary to the character's teamwork.
Yeah, I mean, working with Ada here, literally you don't get the club key. Or is it the heart key or the diamond key? One of the keys. You don't get this key without it, you know?
As Ada, we can venture through
Spooter?
this extra underground section and quickly complete a box puzzle to gain access to a shelf that has a new key, the club key. This
It is
will
the
allow
club
us to
key. I
unlock
couldn't
the
remember.
final doors in the police station, as we aren't.
Hey, thank you for the
quite done
follow.
there
Welcome
yet.
in.
Interestingly enough, we can also grab some ammo in here, which Ada will toss back through the vent along with the key.
Which is really funny because she tosses the key and then she's like, got one more for you.
While Resident Evil 2 doesn't have multiple endings based on your actions like the first game did, it still includes these very small dynamic moments
The shotgun ammo.
adds some depth to the experience. Ada can't get back through
Queenie,
the vent
welcome
without our
in.
help, so she runs off once again. We can now trace our way back through the parking lot and the basement of the station. Since we have the club
What's
key,
up,
we can get
Ecstasy?
a red card key in
Blah,
one of
blah.
the rooms and access the
Blah,
weapon
blah.
storage area. Here, we can obviously find a ton of ammunition, but
Yippee.
we're also confronted with a choice.
Oh, yeah, and this is... We weren't originally going to play Leon B when we did this as Claire A. So Claire took everything. And then Leon didn't get a single thing.
There's a submachine gun in one of the back lockers, along with the side pack.
Funny.
The side pack will increase our inventory space by 2 whole slots, which is a massive upgrade.
Yeah.
We can actually take both of these items, but when we grab one, Leon remarks that we should leave the other one for Claire. This is important because whatever items we leave here,
Thank you.
Claire will be able to pick up when we go to her B story. These items are static, unlike all the ammo and puzzle items in the station. It's a very interesting choice here because leaving something for Claire will make her playthrough a bit easier. We can even leave both.
It's really funny too because I quite literally just took everything and I was like, I got this. These are mine now. Yes.
Items for her if we'd like, or just take both items and leave her with nothing.
I did that.
It's an interesting choice because it makes these two playthroughs actually feel like they're happening at the same time.
Yeah.
The first game in the series didn't do much of this. It was effectively a choice between who was doing all the work and what character was captured by Wesker.
Yeah, because literally in Resident Evil 1, the character that you don't pick to play is captured and stuck in a dungeon that you have to go rescue. I entered my klepto arc for that exact moment. I really did. Listen, I needed the items, you know? I needed the items. They were calling to me.
Makes a bit of an effort to make it feel as if Claire and Leon are both running around the mansion at the same time.
Ironically, I didn't feel that negatively impacted by my decision on Leon B. The shotgun, exactly for this reason, made it so much easier.
Upstairs, with the new key in hand, we can find a watchman's diary that notes how the chief of the station was very protective about the clock tower, where we'll find one of the last chess pieces that we need. It also notes how one of the workers, Thomas, had designed a lock for a door around chess because he was so infatuated with the game. We can collect a couple pieces that we need to get the final piece from the clock tower and solve a puzzle in the library. On our way through the library, though, something happens.
Oh, yeah.
Leon stops as he hears the sounds of the dead falling in through the windows of the station.
This makes me so freaking mad, too. Because you find the cable to, like, put the shutters down. And you do it. And then the cable shorts out. So there's, like, no reason to actually do it. And I don't know if it was just like I picked the wrong window to do this with, or it just doesn't matter and they just come in anyway, which is insane.
This represents a pretty similar mid-game change that the first Resident Evil game makes. In that entry, the game is drastically changed once the hunter enemy is introduced.
Yeah.
The mansion is repopulated.
Wow, the shadows would roll back up when depowered. You got me.
We're suddenly forced to contend with a new threat after thinking that we were relatively safe. In Resident Evil 2, we follow the same structure.
Can we just talk about how goofy the hunters look? It's just a green blob with teeth and claws. It's just a green blob, man. Like, what is this?
Evil 2, we follow the same structure.
Only get one cable, which is dumb. I agree.
Clearing out rooms as we find them.
I agree.
Or if we aren't defeating all of the enemies present in a room, we're at least figuring out how to navigate them. We become
looks like a crocodile blob.
Space.
Yeah.
We're familiar with its layouts. We know which rooms hold enemies and which ones don't. But the game throws us a curveball by repopulating these hallways. These areas are once again dangerous. These paths are closed off, or they at least represent a fear that wasn't there until a few moments ago.
The funny thing too is even just going through the B scenarios, I feel like filled me with that, because there are rooms that you would go through that are supposed to be safe rooms because they have like item boxes in them or something, and then it turned out there were just enemies in them immediately, and I'm like, oh, okay. Hey, thank you, Queenie. Take care. Eric to see you. Thanks for the follow as well. Hope you got a great stream. Ooh, I keep trying to find a comfortable position. I might just be sore from the gym. Yeah. Ugh, big stretch.
Some of this threat can be curved as these windows have automatic shutter systems installed. We can obtain a cord that will allow us to repair one of them and prevent the zombies from infiltrating the station in that area.
Is that only an A scenario?
This also brings me to another point, back to the fact that Resident Evil 2 has a much different presence of fear than
never
the
safe
first
rooms, only
game.
safer rooms.
Pretty early
Yeah.
into the game, we realized that Resident Evil 2 is using the extent of the PlayStation to display as many enemies in one room as it can.
Yeah.
The game's fixed camera angles are also used very cleverly to make these groups seem more numerous than they really are.
Yeah, there are times where it's like, oh my god, there's like 8 of them, and there's only actually like 3, but because of the camera angle, like they're left off screen, so it's a lot harder to tell.
Station definitely has a feeling of being far more overrun than the mansion does, because in the mansion, everyone who was there was turned. Here, we technically have an entire city to contend with.
True.
And it's the feeling of being
and they just
up
start
against
slowly
a
coming in
population of
as the game
turned
goes on.
zombies that provides Resident Evil 2 its distinct style over the first game.
I will also say that is an upside for Resident Evil 3, because Resident Evil 3 original, you're going through Raccoon City while this is all just starting. So you're dealing with even more dickheads. There's so many more zombies and so many more monsters because it's just the beginning of the apocalypse starting, you know?
This intensity,
it's so cool. I freaking love it.
Pressure of being up against the odds is what gives the game its flavor. Though I will say that the Hunter was a particularly impactful moment.
Same with Outbreak too. Oh, that's true. That's true. That's true.
The second game's version of this works quite as well when you're just pushing more zombies into the station.
I agree to some extent. I think it's more or less supposed to be a difficulty spike rather than a, oh my god, look at this new threat. Because it's more like, hey, it feels like it's supposed to be more of a reminder of like, there's an infinite number of zombies out there. You need to get going. You are not safe here. This is not like your end game. You got to keep running. And I don't think it's supposed to be danger. It's just supposed to be a reminder. It's what it more so feels like.
There are a larger variety of enemies in RE2 and a larger variety of zombies, with even female zombies being introduced this time around.
Yeah, I agree,
But it just
Mage.
feels like the mutants really changed the game, and putting more zombies in the station just makes the game more intense. It's
just because it's more hectic, because they can put more zombies on screen, because you're never going to have lickers and zombies. You're never going to have spiders and zombies, or lickers and spiders, or whatever the other enemies are that you meet throughout the game. It's always going to be one or the other. So they're either going to throw, what is it, like 2 lickers at you at the same time, or like 7 zombies. And like, yeah, 2 lickers is going to be insane, but 7 zombies will make you panic more because there's just more. 7 is more than 2, you know?
It's different, not better or worse. Heading into the clock tower, we can get the last chess piece that we need to unlock the door to the sewers. Sliding down a chute to the basement, we see a cutscene.
See, this is what I was talking about. So instead of killing Ben, he infects him with the parasite, and we get this whole different scene
where Ben is being killed by some strange mutation that's broken into his cell. Leon quickly heads over to find Ben.
I almost got the story. Police chief. Co-conspirator. Get that scum. Make him pay. Anyway.
Before he dies, Ben reveals he was trying to figure out who was at the bottom of things, and he implicated
why doesn't anyone ever listen to me?
He gives us this evidence, multiple pieces of mail from Umbrella researcher William Birkin to the chief of police, Brian Irons.
Yeah.
Birkin was informing the chief
Why do you keep taking off my shirt? What are you doing?
Had been lost due to Wesker's renegade actions.
What are you,
he also told him to keep an eye on the STARS members that were involved and to dispose of them if they got too close to the real answers.
True.
The chief was being paid for these efforts, and Birkin was working on something to replace the T virus that was destroyed
the
in the mansion.
G.
He called it the G virus, and Umbrella started to send agents after him to take it away.
Not gonna lie, it does kind of make me want to rewatch the CG movies. Maybe we'll do that in Discord sometime too. and like see where the movies take place canonically. That would be pretty cool. And we could have like Discord, because I just like watching movies sometimes. I'm a big movie watcher. You know, even though Vendetta sucks.
Ada arrives after we get.
I watched a streamer do a labor sim, and he started complimenting all of us women. Was dying of laughter. Labor. Oh, like going into labor, like giving birth. Damn, that's crazy. I don't know if I could. I don't think I want to do that. Just like I don't want to pass a kidney stone.
Get this information, but she quickly runs away to go look for John at the chemical plant.
Why doesn't anyone ever listen to me?
Claire to tell her to meet him in the sewers, our next stop. Before placing the final chess piece in the lock,
there it is.
our first boss of the game, the G. This boss is pretty.
It really is just the first boss of the game, and you're like 2 hours in, which is crazy, right? Almost as crazy as. Apple.
Simple, because all it does is slowly walk towards us and spawn offspring. It seems to mutate right in front of us though, but it does go down surprisingly quick for a Resident Evil boss.
Yeah, because like this is like early to mid game, and you have the Magnum at this point, so it's like 7 or 8 Magnum shots and bam, done.
Entering the next area, Leon finds that Ada has already found her way.
I need the calories. It's not even about loving the apple. My diet and being so restrictive on it now and counting the calories, this is part of my final calorie count. After I eat this apple, I'm at like, God, what am I at? 1550, which is still really low. But I, you know,
into this.
Do you have a favorite movie snack? Popcorn. But I usually prefer eating meals, you know? Are you going to play the RE3 games next? Yep. Yeah, we're playing RE3 Original next week. It'll probably be... I'm going to look at my schedule real quick. Let me add it to my schedule. Resident Evil 3 in one sitting. Probably be next Thursday, I think. Probably. That way I can sleep Friday. Yeah. Yeah, we'll probably do that. Yeah, Resident Evil 3 probably next Thursday. What do you guys think? Next Thursday sound good? I think next Thursday probably sounds good. Next Thursday. RE3 is even more scary. It's so funny because, like, I don't remember the last time I played RE3, and I didn't speedrun it. I watched a lot of speedruns for it, but then, like, that was it. So, who knows?
Sewers. He finally confronts her running off by herself. Leon wants to protect her, but that can only work.
Look, it's my job as an officer to protect you.
Ada agrees to follow Leon, and the two make their way into the sewers.
Running off like that was stupid and reckless.
We can find a fax that listed the dates and times when different officials would arrive to do quality checks on the facility.
Yeah, different
officials. The chief of maintenance, a
officials.
chemical transporter, the chief of police, and William Birkin were all making regular visits to this place. We can head downstairs and find another researcher armed with a pistol. She immediately runs away and shoots at Ada, but
I have to talk to her.
Save her and takes the bullet. Leon is passed out, and we take control of Ada again as she abandons Leon and chases after the researcher.
Which is insane, by the way. The fact that Leon takes a bullet and she immediately goes, "Oh, that woman. I have to talk to her." Doesn't even check on Leon. Doesn't even check on Leon. Just ducks out.
When she tells the researcher who she is, she recognizes the name the same way that we recognize the name. Ada's name was used as a password in Resident Evil because one of the researchers was in a relationship with Ada. The researcher
in a relationship. Air quotes, in a relationship.
Introduces herself as Annette Birkin, the wife of William Birkin,
the
one responsible for the creation of the T-virus.
Did he have a vest?
She tells
He's like shot in like the shoulder though. It doesn't really hit the vest.
Ada that her boyfriend is already dead. He was turned into a zombie. She explains that the G virus was created to synthesize the ultimate bioweapon and that her husband, William, has already mutated. The same creature that killed Ben in the station. She blames Umbrella for this accident, and we see a flashback to the events that she's referring to. William had
It's basically
completed
the opening,
G-virus,
too.
and armed men swarmed inside to take the
We
virus
see a lot
away
of it in
from
the
him.
opening.
They filled him with bullets before taking the sample for themselves, but William kept the virus on his person, injecting himself with it before he died. He completed his transformation and laid waste to the soldiers attacking him. The G-virus gives the mutated
bandages himself
the
up, as
ability
you'll see
to
later. He doesn't bandage himself up. Ada bandages him up after he chases after her and saves her from the crocodile.
implant embryos
I'm sorry,
in
the
other
alligator.
creatures, creating
I forgot it's gator.
offspring and spreading the virus even further. The rats in the sewer are what carried the virus into Raccoon City itself.
Surprise.
Ada eventually wrests the weapon from Annette's hands, knocking her over the railing before she heads downstairs.
I love this because literally, like, Annette does the one thing that you're never supposed to do when you have a gun trained on somebody. Annette walks within like a hand's reach distance of Ada. She has the gun on her from so far away, walks to point blank, and Ada's like, "Ah, yes, watch this." So
before the scene cuts back to Leon and we're given control again. As Leon, we can head through the sewers that are crawling with genetically mutated spiders and make our way to Ada. We're quickly faced with our second boss fight, a mass.
I love that. Ada's shooting. So she's looking down. She's looking at the croc. Shoots. Head looks up to notice Leon. Shoots again. Is still looking up at Leon. And that's it. Like,
massive alligator. It will crawl down the tunnel and chase us back. We can spend lots of ammunition here trying to defeat this thing, or we can drop a canister towards the end of the tunnel, which the alligator will quickly try to consume. Once it gets its jaws around it, we can shoot the canister and blow the thing up.
I love this shot, dude. You can even see it, like,
once it gets its jaws around it.
Look how the game like slows down because of all the particles too. The game just immediately slows down because of all the particles on screen.
We can shoot the canister and blow the thing up.
I love it.
We can find Ada in the trash room nearby where Leon gets a quick patch up from her.
Also, one of the only times, and exclusive to Leon, it is an actual in-game full heal. So if you've taken damage to this point and you don't have any heals on you, or if for some reason you just didn't want to heal throughout the entire game, this is a free heal.
She tells Leon that her boyfriend is already dead, and the two head to find a way out of this place. We can find 2 medallions in the sewers that will unlock another path out.
Real.
The sewer manager's diary will reveal that Chief Irons was a bit more unhinged than even we realized, threatening to shoot the manager at one point.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
In the sewers will take us to an underground tram car. This car will take
Leon
and Ada to another area of the underground, specifically an Umbrella lab. But before that, they are attacked in the car by the G monster.
Look, you can just keep
again.
Like
it seems that
walking
we
away.
Kill it earlier before it mutated again.
So, not true. This is Birkin. The thing that we fought before was a G adult, because it wasn't Birkin. The thing that we fought before was not Birkin.
On the other side of the tram car, we can find an even larger train car on a platform. We need to ride this platform down into the lab to find a real way out. This rabbit hole goes all the way down. After activating the platform, though, the G monster penetrates the outside of the car and hits Ada.
This is Birkin again.
We can head outside for another boss fight with the thing. This time it's mutated even further, barely resembling a human form anymore.
The
Whatever
super
was left
shotgun
of William has been lost far inside the beast that stands before us.
Oh.
The G monster will slowly stalk us around the platform while we load it full of bullets. It still doesn't quite have the dexterity or abilities to really give us much of a challenge, though.
Yeah, you just run away and shotgun it.
Hit us, it does a lot of damage, so we have to stay moving. Heading back inside, Ava will be knocked out.
Ada.
Leon carries her into the Umbrella lab.
Whoopsies.
He lays her down on a bed and promises her that he's going to look for something to treat her wounds.
Oh, This is not in the B scenario, because I don't think Leon comes in here in the B scenario. It's only Sherry that's in here. He has to come in here later to get Sherry.
She reveals that she has feelings for Leon, which is strange because they really haven't spent much time together. She honestly just keeps running away from him every chance she gets. The Umbrella Lab is the last area of the game, our final trial and hopefully getting out of this nightmare. Leon navigates through the place, powering up machines and contending with the mutated liquors and plant creatures that have overtaken the lab. We can get a card key, which grants us access to some of the rooms and interact with the computer.
I don't recall ever running into the croc when I played. Did you play? I guess it's in Claire A. You only run into it in the A scenarios, because then you have to kill it and it'll be dead in the B scenario. So, I don't know. You got me.
That allows us to register our fingerprint into the system. I have to just quickly note how good this team was at creating computer UIs. Even the short-lived computer in Resident Evil just looks so cool. And that doesn't change with this entry.
Yeah.
I mean, just listen to the feedback sounds from typing on this thing.
Yeah.
There is technically another boss in this room in the form of a moth, but it's really nothing special. It just shoots projectiles at us, but we can honestly kill it quick enough to never get attacked.
This thing, like, barely gets a chance to move at all.
The fingerprint registration is pretty much useless for now, though, because we actually need 2 people to activate the door that takes the fingerprints. In another small static event, we can complete this during Claire's playthrough. Heading back upstairs, we find...
I love that. I genuinely loved that. I didn't know that was a thing, because obviously when I speedran Leon A, I never played Claire B. So doing Claire A and then playing Leon B and using the fingerprint and getting through to the other side, you get the submachine gun, which we didn't get for Leon earlier because we took it as Claire. So it was a nice little like, oh, cool. I don't have to worry about this. I actually ended up getting this item anyway.
The net breaking down and looking for
I forgot
Ada.
the moth exists.
She thinks that
it's because it's like, it's the only enemy in the game. It's the only moth in the game. And it's only in that room. And it's an optional room.
Here to take the G virus
from
her.
It's really
she
funny.
She doesn't want to give it up since it represents the last thing that her husband did in this world. She reveals that her background check on Ada uncovered that she is an operative sent here by the agency. What agency? Who are they? Where are they from? Doesn't really matter right now.
We also never know. We've never found out this information. This has still never been revealed. Ada is working for some crazy people out there.
All we know is that Annette is claiming that Ada is a spy. Her goal here was to get the G virus. She was only dating John to get information about Umbrella.
True.
Leon doesn't believe any of this, and as the facility comes crumbling down, Annette is killed by some falling pipes. Leon grabs the G virus and heads outside as a self-destruct sequence has begun in the facility. But
I always laugh at this scene because it's like she literally dies. A bunch of random pipes fall on her. And she's just dead. Survived zombies, survived liquors, survived plants, dogs, mutated moths. Birkin dies to a bunch of falling pipes. Listen, sucks to suck, Annette. I don't know what to tell you.
But before he can head to the exit, Ada arrives. Clearly,
I don't believe this
anymore. It turns out that Annette was right, and that Ada was here for the G virus. Ada is then shot by Annette.
Got much better death than Claire B.
Yep. To stop their plans. Leon tries to stop her from falling over the railing, but he can't save her, and she falls to her death. Leon briefly mourns her before heading for the exit.
For me.
Downstairs, we can head for an elevator that will...
Also, much better death in Leon B, in my opinion. Way better death in Leon B, because she decides to come back to help Leon to fight Mr. X, and then she gets knocked into an electric panel, and she gets destructionificated.
Take us to a train headed for outside of the city, but the G monster stops us once again. We have one more confrontation with William Birkin where he fully mutates into his final form, a grotesque amalgamation of spikes, exposed eyes, and flesh.
Something I was always curious about with this form, for those of you that have played RE3 Remake, Is this like what Nemesis was based on? Because it kind of feels, because this is not an RE2 remake. Oh, I guess technically it is on Claire's side. I always kind of thought that this is kind of where they got the inspiration for Nemesis's dog form, you know? Hey, take care, Angela. Bye.
He jumps all over the arena, dashing
Oh,
at
it
us,
sucks.
climbing on top of containers, and jumping directly on our head. But the final shot takes him down, and Leon has just enough time to get out. When Leon gets downstairs, the train is already
like that one Australian guy.
to hop on.
It got me.
Claire has already boarded the train with a small girl. Claire remarks that she's...
Oh, yeah, because Leon never meets Sherry and Leon A. Ever.
Still needs to find her brother, Chris, and Leon bids Ada one final goodbye.
I go through whatever organization I need to serve my intentions type, though I wonder if the agency means Wesker in the grand scheme of things at this point. So how I always understood it is that Wesker and Ada are working for the same agency. But yeah, we never really get an answer to that. Because like Ada kind of works for Wesker in RE4, but I always understood it as Wesker was like also a pawn to those people kind of thing. Ada Wong is dead, or is she dead? She is missing. Until you see a body, they're not dead.
Goodbye, Ada.
Unless you're Piers Nivens from RE6, then you're definitely dead. Piers went out like a badass, though, I will say.
We'll
get there eventually.
The end of the game, because we still have many unanswered questions.
Like, who is this girl?
That little girl? What was Claire doing while Leon was making his way through the station? And most importantly, what happened after the credits rolled?
Oh,
these questions are left unanswered because we haven't played Claire's side of the story yet. Loading our clear save on Claire's side of the game.
Kind of, but no, Nemesis' final form was unplanned. The result of throwing his remains into a vat of other dead body parts. Oh, no, sorry. I was talking about the dog form in RE3 Remake. Not like Dead Factory RE3 Nemesis, but just specifically Remake Nemesis. Yeah.
Game will allow us to play
thanks for the follow. Welcome in.
And see what she was up to this whole time. The beginning of this playthrough recaps what happened on Leon's side of the story and introduces us to Claire as a character. Claire is driving into Raccoon City on her motorcycle. She wanders into a nearby bar and is attacked by zombies before being saved by Leon. We then see the same sequence from before as the two crash and are separated by an explosion.
I think I actually kind of preferred playing this as Claire. I'm not going to lie. The Claire A scenario. The Leon B scenario was really fun. Really stressful, but really fun.
Claire then similarly runs along the Raccoon City streets, trying to make her way to the police station. She doesn't end up in Kendo's gun shop, heading into the front side of the police station. She takes the back route and ends up accessing the police station from the roof.
What's your opinion on RE3 Remake Nemesis? I don't really like him. It feels like he should have been like what Mr. X is in RE2 Remake. But in all honesty, he there's like a couple scripted encounters with him. And I feel that's like the only real times you find him are those times that it's like the scripted encounters. And then some of the scripted boss fights with him suck. You know, the fight with him outside of the clock tower, garbage, really bad fight. The fight where you have to shoot him off the acid vats, also a terrible fight. You know what I mean?
Now, we need to talk about the differences between Claire and Leon's routes. There's a lot more differences when it comes to the route that we choose to play first, but we'll talk about that later. The main differences between Leon and Claire's routes are the way in which they reach different situations.
Yeah.
Both characters will still do the same things, at least for the bulk of the story.
For the most part.
The puzzles they solve will be the same.
Yep. But he could have been a contender, but he's the opposite of what he was in the original. Worst, yet everything's good about him is in the demo. Yeah, like RE3 Remake Nemesis, since like the city segment is what you play, and that's all you play. You know, you want stars, I'll give you stars. I'm not even gonna make this up. That line is amazing. as an ending to RE3 original. It feels deserved. Jill is in a position of power. She is walking Nemesis down, shooting magnum shot after magnum shot after magnum shot, and really feels like she's getting her revenge, you know? But in RE3 Remake, it happens while she's running away. And in my first playthrough, I got hit while Jill was saying that line. So it canceled the dialogue and she didn't even finish saying it. And it's also just like you're running away from Nemesis. Why would she say, "You want stars, I'll give you stars," and proceeds to run away? You know? It's frustrating. It's such an iconic line, you know? Ugh.
We'll be looking for different.
We'll complain about RE3. We'll complain about RE3 Remake when we get to it. It wasn't for me. You know, there's some things that I really like about it. I think combat is fun, and I think the dodge mechanic very, very fun. But like, some of the segments kind of suck. I'm not gonna lie.
Characters. Claire's main companion is not Ada, but a young girl named Sherry. While Resident Evil 2 does make a better effort at making both of these playthroughs distinct and trying to make it more realistic,
they're kind of the same.
Two characters are traveling through the mansion at the same time, there are still many things that don't make sense.
They're very much the same. Like, some of the puzzles will get solved by both of them. Some doors will be locked that you like unlocked as Leon, and vice versa.
This makes it difficult to figure out what exactly the
also
canon story is. We'll deal with this towards the end of this section, but for now, Claire makes her way into the police station. As she does, something happens that drastically changes the gameplay of her side of the story. A helicopter carries a crate of canisters over the building and drops one on top of it. The canister releases some sort of person into the station. The canister is marked T00, but this character's name is Mr. X.
It's so funny too, because isn't this a community given name? Isn't this just a community given name? Mr. X? It's like what everyone called him, like back in the day. Yeah. But it's such a community, like it's such a popular thing within Resident Evil fans that it was kind of adopted by them, because it's just a tyrant. It is a T00 tyrant. You know? It came from an action figure release. That's kind of cool. But I will say, because we played this in original, and I think Mr. X showed up twice. Once was during the original scripted scene, and then once was another random scripted moment. I don't think he ever showed up in like a following me capacity. You know? I don't think he ever showed up in a following me around capacity. And that's why I was so shocked that they changed it to that for RE2 Remake. And I was like, this is like what Nemesis is like in RE3 Original. And then Nemesis is not like that in RE3 Remake. I'm like, oh no.
Mr. X is some sort of biological weapon, a massive man in a trench coat that is incredibly powerful. He moves slow and stalks our character, delivering big swings with his fist.
Look at this slow step, bro.
Mr. X is hard to take down, but it doesn't much matter because Mr. X will not die. If we defeat him, he'll just return later, over and over again. Mr. X is a character that is only present in the B playthrough. No matter whether we choose Leon or Claire first, he always ends up in the B plotline. He's an incredibly powerful foe, and Mr. X greatly ups the intensity of the playthrough.
Absolutely
He's honestly
agree.
Probably the best part of Resident Evil 2 and the most iconic part of this game.
It's so funny too, because he's in the B scenarios, which I think most players probably just didn't play, because they would play, you know, Leon A or then go swap discs and play Claire A.
Having an enemy that effectively cannot be killed and that will sort of chase us throughout the entire game is extremely defeating. It's a constant obstacle that we have to overcome, that we always need to deal with no matter what. Because of this, Mr. X stays in the back of our mind during the entire time we're playing. It is something that I think the remake will do better, but that's mostly due to technical limitations that existed when RE2 was released.
crazy too, because they talk about technical limitations. But the year after this, Resident Evil 3 came out and did it with freaking Nemesis. The year after. It's crazy. Dude, the 90s and early 2000s for video games were some of the craziest developmental years where they realized the wild stuff that they could do. You know? Capcom was cooking in the 90s. I agree. And early 2000s, because when we got Resident Evil 4, we got Code Veronica, we got Remake, 0 was okay. We got Devil May Cry, 2 wasn't for me. We got Devil May Cry 3, you know? Capcom pumping out 5 Mega Man games a year after 2000. It was wild. It was a crazy time. Onimusha as well. Did they rush RE3 Remake? Crazy thing. I can't wait to talk about this more. RE3 Remake. People are always like, oh, it was rushed. It should have been cooked more. It wasn't rushed. RE3 Remake had the same developmental time and developmental period that RE2 Remake had. The same amount of time. It's just that it wasn't the same team and they didn't have the same budget, or maybe not the same budget, but it was a different team. I don't think they had the same supervision. I think RE2 Remake was their focus. And then RE2 Remake was a banger, and then RE3 Remake was not for me.
Dealing with Mr. X, Claire will head into the station proper, solving similar puzzles to Leon. Claire's end goal is not to get chess plugs in this area, but to get a variety of different blocks that will unlock access to the sewers.
Yep.
Venturing through the station, Claire will meet Leon in the stars room, where he hands her Chris's
just like what happened in the original games. Yeah.
A similar conversation as
literally
before,
exact same thing.
When Claire is leaving, she grabs a fax from the fax machine. Chris was contacting internal investigations about Umbrella.
Funny thing too, with the original games, Resident Evil 3 was not supposed to be Resident Evil 3 back in the day. It was just supposed to be Resident Evil Nemesis. It was just supposed to be a spinoff. And they sold it and shipped it as Resident Evil 3, I think because they were contractually obligated to for a contract with Sony. And then they had to put one on the Dreamcast, and then they were contractually obligated to do 3 games on the GameCube. To the double RE3 stream of original to remake back to back. No, we're gonna split those up. We're gonna do original RE3 one stream, and then RE3 remake another stream. They call it 3, but it never felt like a sequel like Code Veronica does. Yeah, I agree with that. Code Veronica really does feel like Resident Evil 3 in that capacity. But I will say, at least 3 Nemesis feels still good original, you know? The project that became Veronica was the OG plan to call RE3, but took longer. Yeah, they needed more time, and then they had to push something onto the Dreamcast for, I think, a contract that they had. I believe.
And the chief's ties to them. He was told that Irons was being paid by Umbrella and to express caution when dealing with him. They weren't sure whether the G virus existed, but this fax only comes through when we're walking out, so Chris never got it in the first place. As Claire leaves, she sees a young girl being chased by a zombie and heads after her. She seems to disappear, but as Claire solves the puzzles in the station and manages to explode the entrance to a blocked-off room, she finds herself in Chief Irons' office. There's a dead woman laying on the desk, and Irons reveals himself. He tells Claire that the woman is the mayor's daughter, and he failed to save her. He speaks about her death with a kind of ominous disconnection. He's surrounded by taxidermied animals, a past...
Code Veronica was good, but one of the longest survival horror games ever. I don't know about longest, but it is definitely way longer than a lot of the other Resident Evils. Like, to give you an idea, we finished Claire A and Leon B in, I think, around 9 hours, which is less time than it took us to finish Resident Evil 0 just one playthrough, which is crazy to think about. Old school Resident Evils or older Resident Evils could be completed much faster because they expected you to do multiple playthroughs. Yeah.
time of his. He asks to be alone, and we can head into the back room.
I want to be
where we find
alone.
this young girl once again.
Leave
She
me
tells
alone.
us her name, Sherry. She says
Leave
that
me
both of
alone.
her parents work at the chemical plant. She claims that some large creature
The
is chasing
chemical
her and
plant.
runs away again.
Yes.
Chasing after her, the chief has disappeared and left his diary behind. Turns out that he spread confusion among the police to ensure that they didn't put up a fight against the outbreak.
Which is, dude, that is crazy. When you find this information and you kind of put it together, because so many people ask, like, I think Claire asks, Leon asks, like Marvin, like, what's going on? Like, why aren't the police doing anything? Like, why were the zombies able to overrun the city? Like, Chief Irons hid their weapon supplies, destroyed their communications gear, put in false reports to make them running into different locations so they didn't know what was going up, and split them up and disbanded stars / discredited stars so they weren't there either. And it's crazy to think about. One man literally made it so an entire city fell apart. And in this, he is literally talking about, look what they did to my city. And I'm like, bro, you did this. Bro, you did this. What? It's crazy.
And 2 days later, he decided to start hunting down the survivors himself.
Yeah.
Killing everyone in the station and finally tracking down the mayor's daughter.
Yeah, and he talks about doing it like this because it was like hunting. You know, like hunting big game.
The chief was clearly unhinged. Something in his mind had cracked at some point, and it wasn't the virus spreading throughout the city.
It was.
This plays on the trope present in many pieces of zombie media that the humans around the zombies are just as infected without actually carrying a virus.
Yeah, so I think we talked about this before, but Irons is literally in Umbrella's pocket. Like they're paying for him to look the other way and all this other kind of stuff. And so he's always been a piece of shit. But it's like the zombie outbreak then kind of like amplified it. Like he was already terrible, but, you know, made it worse.
After this, Claire makes it into a separate section of the underground, but a similar thing happens to Leon. Sherry is here, and even though Claire tries to get her to follow her, she rushes off looking for her dad.
Yeah, why won't anyone
Just
listen
like
to
Ada,
me?
we end up controlling Sherry, heading to the other side to look for the club key to toss it back to Claire. It's actually kind of wild controlling Sherry and trying to dodge zombies and feral dogs. Sherry gives the key to Claire and runs off to find another.
They don't try and bite her. They try and puke on her because she's too small. That's crazy. I didn't know
way
that.
to get back. Leon then radios in to Claire to tell her that he got access to the back parking
I
lot.
had no idea.
With the club key, we can head back into the basement and take any items that Leon left for Claire and the weapons storage. We can then head back into the station and complete the rest of the puzzles we need to. While completing the puzzle for the cog, though, Mr. X straight up smashes through the wall. This actually terrified me the first time it happened.
So cool.
I was shocked, and it's not just because a powerful monster was attacking me.
It's so
but
cool.
because the game became less safe. Resident Evil 2 is great at doing this in many different areas.
Yeah.
Generally, there are safe rooms in Resident Evil games.
Or like specifically rooms that like you just don't have enemies in, so you just assume that you're safe. It happens like the same thing in the room with the two-way glass, and the liquor jumps through it.
These rooms have typewriters where we can save.
Hey,
item
thank you for the
boxes
follow.
where we
Welcome
can
in.
Store excess equipment and
the item boxes isn't true anymore because if there's no typewriter in it, there could be zombies there, which we ran into in Leon's B scenario.
generally safety.
Which is
These
crazy.
rooms represent a spot to take a break, to take a breath, and to rest from the chaos. These rooms are
think.
not disturbed just
Right?
quite yet, but something else that
think.
generally represents safety are puzzle rooms. It's not exactly easy to solve a puzzle if zombies are running around trying to attack you. This isn't a strict rule, but it's generally followed.
The remake really emphasizes just how much Umbrella owns the city. Oh, absolutely. You see it in 3 as well. What's up? What's up?
When Mr. X breaks through the wall just after we solve a puzzle, it represents a breaking of this agreement, a shattering of this rule. It's no longer followed, it holds no weight, it means nothing.
Mr. X as a story device is great that way because there were several situations where he did show up and it was like, oh, this makes this harder. But it was only like 3 or 4 times, you know? Have I read the old Resident Evil novels? Nah. I don't read. I'm too stupid.
You can be attacked anywhere, and the game is not to be trusted anymore.
What is Mr. X? He is a tyrant. So the tyrant that we see in RE1, he is the next stage of that, but controllable. I think in some of the depictions, he has like a chip sticking out of his head or something like that, or like a wireless receiver. But he's literally like a bioweapon that they can control, is like the best way of putting it. Yeah, the most stable tyrant developed. Yeah.
After leaving the room, Mr. X pulls this attack again and will eventually chase us up to the 3rd level of the station. When we finally get all 3 blocks, we can unlock the entrance to the elevator.
Yippee!
Sherry is here at first, but Claire heads down by herself. She's confronted by Irons, who resents Umbrella for destroying his town. He tells Claire about the G virus and its
I love how he's like, Umbrella destroyed my town, but I hunted down all the survivors in the RPD and killed them myself, and, you know, destroyed all the communications equipment and hid their weapons and made false reports so everyone would be confused and be easier to be overrun by the zombies. Anyway.
Capabilities. He also lets her in on the fact that William Birkin was behind it and that Sherry is his daughter. He's then quickly killed by the G monster, Birkin himself. As we enter the underground section, we watch...
Wait, that was crazy. Because that's not what happens in Claire A. He gets infected in Claire A, and his chest splits open, and then you have to fight the G adult. That... Bro, can I see that again?
Killed by the G monster.
Dude! Hey... That hand... like, went through the ground, dude. Look at it! It's through the ground! Bro... It's like a dude. That is like Sakura stand or Sakura staying heavy punch. That's 2 frames. Why does she have a 2-frame fierce? 1, 2. Done.
The G monster.
Damn, he got bodied.
As we enter the underground section, we watch Birkin mutate and transform into the monster. He's our first boss fight of Claire's side, and similar to Leon, he slowly walks towards us, and we start blasting him with the grenade launcher, which sends him over the edge pretty quickly. We can run back upstairs.
Just gotta start blasting, you know?
Who follows us downstairs. As the two head forward into the tunnels, though, they spot Mr. X trailing after them. Shortly after this, Sherry is dragged into a nearby tunnel.
I think this is quite literally just from the water pressure. It's not like a literal, like, something grabbed her. I think just that opening and the water rushing that way because she's so light and small.
Claire makes her way through the underground, eventually coming across Leon after he was
Which is
shot
still
by
terrifying.
Wait,
Claire finds Leon in Claire B? What? Whoa. I almost want to go back and play Leon A, Claire B. Whoa.
Tells Claire about Ada and sends us to find them. We locate Annette pretty quickly, and Claire tells her that her daughter is missing. Before passing out, she tells Claire that Sherry has a sample of the G virus. We can pass through this area again and grab the medallions without fighting the giant alligator since it's already been killed by Leon. Claire calls the train and meets back up with Sherry. Sherry says she hasn't heard of the G virus, so Claire lets it go for now. The two then head to the underground lab, but as Claire calls the platform up, Mr. X is back once again, cornering us on a
And this is the other time I remember him showing up.
We take him down once more, use the platform to head down to the lab. And
I wonder if you have to fight him there, if you could have just snuck by. I feel like you probably could have just snuck by him, you know?
Fight the next form of the G monster on the way down. Claire tells Sherry to wait here while she looks for her mother.
I don't remember any of this. I don't know Claire B. Claire B is the one campaign that I've straight up never played. I played Leon A, Claire A, and Leon B now, because we did Claire A, Leon B on stream, and I used to speedrun Leon A. And now I'm seeing Claire B, and I'm like, whoa, I don't know any of this.
Well, honestly, that she's thankful
Which is
for her.
insane.
Thankful that she finally has someone in her life to rely on, since her parents have always been absent. This is a point I'd like to praise for a second. Resident Evil 2 does have a few moments of genuine depth and emotion. This is such a heartfelt moment, and while Sherry isn't outright complaining that her parents aren't around, she's actually expressing gratitude. We can still feel that from her.
Yeah, it is genuinely, it's just good storytelling, because it is very much a show don't tell, where as the game goes on, Sherry becomes more and more familiar with Claire and more affectionate because she is getting the same affections reciprocated, whereas Annette and William did not give her this type of attention. And she passes that by saying, you know, things like, oh yeah, like now I really have a family, or now I have a sister, now I have someone who cares about me. Like, and she's genuinely like, oh my God, I've never had this before in my life. It's so nice to have somebody that I can hug and stuff like that, you know. Welcome in, Raiders. My name is Roy Chiato, like a macchiato. I'm a coffee-fueled bunny host with a serious passion for voice acting, and I love working out, in case you didn't see today's progress pig. Welcome in, guys. We are watching the Resident Evil 2 retrospective, going over the story and behind-the-scenes content of Resident Evil 2. So if you're interested in Resident Evil, it's one of my favorite franchises. Pull up a chair, kick up your feet. Let's have some fun, shall we?
The fact that a child would be so starved for attention and care that even in the most terrifying and chaotic of situations,
man, poor Sherry,
she would be grateful is a gut punch.
Yeah, poor Sherry,
this is
dude.
why I say that Resident Evil 2 is such a step up in terms of story from the first game. While the remake had certain moments like this, they weren't really present in the original. In the lab, we'll deal with slightly different circumstances than Leon. We'll still have to deal with most of the things he did, like fighting the moth and grabbing the key cards, but we'll also get access to different areas, like a power sector. We eventually find
we had to do this with Leon too.
Reveals that the sample of the G virus is inside of Sherry's pendant around her neck.
Evil science is pretty bad for a healthy family environment. Real.
We can find Sherry in the power section being attacked by Mr. X. She tosses the pendant to Claire, and Mr. X seems to follow it. It seems.
Oh, I didn't know that. Was he looking for the G virus the whole time? Just came from playing Halo Combat Evolved as your stream. We've been vibing. You know, we love doing these little retrospectives because we're going back through the entirety of the Resident Evil mainline franchise. And it's been really fun. So if you like that kind of thing, you definitely came to the right place.
Seems like he was sent here specifically to find the G virus, which is why he's
Blue
been
Key, thanks for the follow.
Sherry this whole time. Claire tosses the sample into the molten fire below, and Mr. X goes after it. This death doesn't last for long as a new mutated form crawls out of the fire.
The mutated
After
form.
This, the self-destruct sequence begins, and Claire makes a mad rush to get out of the facility before it explodes. On the way, Sherry finds her mother dying on the catwalk. She begs for her daughter's forgiveness before she passes away, and Claire takes the young girl with her. We use the emergency elevator and guide Claire to the train that takes us out of there. Before we activate the power for the train, we have to fight one more boss, the final mutated form of Mr. X. And just like the end of...
And I think don't we just call this guy Super Tyrant? It's not like Super X, it's just Super Tyrant, I think.
Resident Evil, we are tossed a rocket launcher by a mystery person to fully destroy this thing. Claire...
Wait, who tosses it to Claire? Is it Leon? It has to be Leon, right? Who else would mysteriously toss Ada still? Is it really? Hasn't Claire not ever met Ada? Interesting.
Rushes back to the car and starts the train as Leon jumps onto the thing at the last second, and these two are reunited. The facility explodes behind them, and the game continues on after the cutoff on Leon's side. It seems like the group is home free, but an alert starts on the train, activating a self-destruct sequence on the vehicle
on the train.
Claire heads into the back car to check it out, and a final form of the G virus infiltrates. One last mass of flesh, spikes, and exposed eyes to defeat. Much like the others, we basically just blast it full of holes as it withers away. We then get the final ending sequence as Leon and Sherry attempt to shut off the self-destruct sequence.
Terrifying.
They eventually shut down the train.
Can you imagine you're just standing there in a wall of blob flesh and teeth and tentacles and spikes, and death is walking towards you? That's crazy.
And get out, but blow the train up with the mutated G virus inside. The three survivors get a happy ending as Claire claims they still have one more job to do.
Yeah, there's two sides to every story.
They need to find Chris, leaving the game open for a sequel story. This is the end of the Leon A route for Resident Evil 2. Before we talk about what Resident Evil 2 does good as a whole, let's quickly talk about the other route, Claire A.
Yeah.
If we start the game with Claire, things are very similar, but also very different. It
is funny because, yeah, she goes and finds Kendo, and Kendo, instead of, sorry about that, I thought you were one of them. Well, sorry about that, babe.
Game with Claire means that she
Sorry
is
about
the
that,
one
darling.
enters Kendo's gun shop and heads in the front of the police station.
Whew.
She takes this route through the mansion and meets Branagh before he
You mean the police station?
turns.
The
She
mansion's
fights
just so
the
easy to
alligator,
say.
and she doesn't deal with Mr. X.
Yeah.
The only thing that really changes
I don't have a
based
clue,
on
darling.
who plays first or second are the route that they take through the game. Claire will still deal with Sherry, and Leon will still deal with Ada. There are some slight differences in the way that the story is delivered and some small extra scenes between the two routes, but it's essentially just the placement of events or who experiences them.
Yeah.
So which route is actually better?
It is funny because I do think I preferred Claire A, Leon B. It kind of felt better to me. Because I had played Leon A before, but like I can't imagine going through B scenario with Claire's weapons, because like Leon getting the shotgun felt so important, and I really wish I had that super shotgun. Police mansion, basically.
Most people consider playing Claire first and Leon second to be the best way, or the canon route.
That is what I'm
and
always
I would honestly
told.
have to agree.
Yeah.
This is mainly because of the pacing of the story. First of all, Leon's story feels like it works much better when he's dealing with Mr. X. It just adds a lot of intensity to his story, being chased down by the massive genetically engineered bioweapon, and Claire's story feels like it works a lot better when it's centered around William Birkin and the G-Virus.
Yes.
It's also worth noting that when playing Claire first, Shelley is actually infected with
Shelly.
the G-Virus instead of just carrying it in her pendant.
Oh, I didn't even realize Sherry didn't get infected in Claire B. So Claire A is canon because, surprise, we have Resident Evil 6.
We have to synthesize an antidote to the virus in the final
That didn't even like cross my mind.
section of the game and administer it to her. It's also kind of the story that the remake would choose to follow instead of the Leon A route. It just works more for the characters and feels like it has much better pacing.
Makes sense.
But what about Resident Evil 2?
Sherry just gets
as a
lost
whole?
in Claire B. That's
This game,
insane.
for the most part, manages to improve on the formula that Resident Evil set out. It introduces more variety in weapons through, well, more weapons, but also weapon upgrades.
Yeah.
It's one of those
The weapon upgrades are so satisfying. Every time you find a weapon upgrade in Resident Evil 2, you feel it. It's why, like, I'm already debating how I want to handle RE3, and I'm probably going to use some cheese strats for what's it called? I'm probably going to use some cheese strats for Nemesis so we can get the weapon parts from him, because I want to fight him and I want to get the parts so we can get those weapons because they're so cool.
systems that just feels like it should have been there from the start.
You know,
the story is massively improved with actual compelling characters that have an impact on the world around them. As much as I like Barry, Chris, Jill, Rebecca, and Wesker,
we know you
they
like
all just
Rebecca.
didn't get enough screen time. Of course, we spent the whole game with Chris and Jill, but scenes where they actually spoke were few and far between.
It was like never, and it was always like, whoa, what was that? Oh, I don't know, but we'll have to get to the bottom of this. Like, those were Chris's lines, you know? A little bit longer and you would have been a Jill sandwich.
Leon should feel a bit one-dimensional.
Forrest.
He should just be the face that's there to save people, the guy that's all surface with nothing underneath. But he actually ends up developing feelings for Ada, something that ends in total tragedy for him. Claire has substance and motivation from the start. She's tracing this mystery down because she wants to find her brother, which automatically connects her to the audience since we already know Chris.
And it makes Claire a very compelling character as well because she's driven trying to find her family, you know?
She is validated by her brother's
found the
presence
root
in the
of the
previous
problem.
game. Sherry is tied up in the G-Virus and its creation, an automatic connection with her parents, and even becoming infected with the virus in certain routes. And Ada has her own motivations, ones that aren't completely revealed before she falls into a chasm, never to be seen again.
Yeah, never. She's gone forever, guys.
Maybe. Overall, Resident Evil 2 is an upgrade for the series. I don't think it's a massive one. The appeal of the first two games are very similar. I think that the boss designs in the first game are probably better overall, but Resident
Probably. Because, like, when you think about it, like, RE2's bosses are G-Adult, Birkin, Super Tyrant, or other forms of Birkin. In Resident Evil 1, you've got, you know, Black Tiger, Neptune, Yawn, Tyrant. You know? Like, I feel like thematically, those bosses do fit better.
Evil 2 has bosses that are more tonally accurate. Fighting the G-infected monster over and over, watching it mutate across the runtime, watching it get progressively stronger, accurately elevates the threat.
What the heck was that? There was so much blood
that the monster presents. And the Tyrant exists as almost the opposite.
Bro, the stun locks.
Consistent threat present throughout the game. A constant chasing
Holy
enemy
crap.
that never stops. Not until we finally finish it off for good. The story as a whole is paced much better. Though you are required to play the game at least twice to see the whole thing, if not 4 times just to see every little thing presented, this is probably the least enticing part of the game.
I mean, I don't know if I would say that's a negative. I feel like today, from today's standards, that's probably a positive, considering in today's standard market, there are so many times where you're finding games that are like, that was a 5-hour experience, $70, please. Meanwhile, Resident Evil 2 in 1998 in a cave with a box of scraps. Here's 4 campaigns, the Hunk scenario, the Tofu Survivor, and Extreme Battle. Have fun.
Is the required replayability. It's really nice to have such a dynamic system, like changing where
It never occurred to me that RE2 bosses are mostly the same 2 guys and really angry alligator. Yeah, exactly.
That's generally fine if it's not forced upon the player, but we have to do it no matter what.
I still remember the scene where you see him destroy a camera just pass by. Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. Tofu Survivor.
In the N64 version of the game, we can even find different connections to other Resident Evil games.
Oh,
we can find notes from Jill Valentine. We find out that Kendo, the gun shop owner, knew Barry. We find notes from...
Well, so it's not just that he knew Barry. I don't remember where we get this connection from, but the Samurai Edge, which is the standard issue pistol for STARS members, so Chris, Barry, Jill, Rebecca, all had samurai edges, though Barry's he probably had his 44 Magnum. So Rebecca, Jill, Chris all had samurai edges, and those were custom made by Kendo to be like the most effective, efficient guns that they could possibly need. So
character that shows up in Resident Evil.
I just don't remember
3.
where that's confirmed.
We can find out what Rebecca Chambers was dealing with after the mansion incident. It also massively widens the story by noting that a mother virus was originally discovered by someone named Oswell E. Spencer, and the research was eventually passed on to Birkin.
Is that the first time we hear Spencer? I thought we heard it in RE1.
And while replaying the
there's a good chance the Samurai Edge story originated in the N64 port. It's not in the first remake. It was probably in non-game content. Wow, that's crazy to think about because it's such a well-known thing now. Samurai Edge is a real gun that's in our world, actually became real after RE2 came out. That's kind of crazy.
Game does feel mandatory. Replaying the game is also heavily encouraged in other ways. We can unlock many weapons like the infinite rocket launcher or the infinite minigun. We can even unlock 2 alternate scenarios, ones that see us controlling a mercenary named Hunk.
Yeah, the 4th survivor.
To bring the G virus to Umbrella.
4th survivor, baby.
To avoid zombies and monsters and get picked up by a helicopter. This same scenario can also be played while we control a stick of tofu mascot. I just can't see any way that this game wasn't an insane value for this era.
Absolutely. This is what we were talking about, you know? You ever watch Kendo's Gun Shop? Is it like a short or something? Oh, I don't know. I don't think I did.
Even though you need to replay the game, replaying the game still feels fun, and there's much more to do on subsequent replays than in the first game. Resident Evil 2 was an incredibly successful follow-up to the first entry.
Real. But I wish the series was still named Biohazard. It's so much better about the themes. So I think it was a trademark thing in the US at the time, which is why they had to go with a different name. I do agree with you, though, because outside of Resident Evil 1, like, it's not really Resident Evil anymore. You know, it is Biohazard. It is a biohazard that has broken out, you know? And especially as the franchise goes on, Resident Evil 4, definitely not in a residence. It's in a village and a castle and in some mines and, you know, some swampy areas, you know, like all this bullshit. And then Resident Evil 5, literally just in Africa, different ass country again, where Resident Evil 4 was in Spain. Resident Evil 6 is in China, somewhere in nondescript, like northeastern Europe, and like middle America, like Chicago area. Crazy. Like, it's everywhere.
Years later, it would spawn one of the most successful remakes ever.
Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Capcom had been tossing around the idea of a Resident Evil 2 remake since the remake of the first game came out.
Yeah.
At the time, though, all efforts were being put on the development of Resident Evil 4, and Mikami didn't want to take people away from that project for a remake.
Yeah.
It would take over 10 years before Capcom would return to the idea, and the Resident Evil 2 remake was finally released on January 25th, 2019 for the Sony PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Windows.
Damn, dude, 2019 was a crazy year for games. Chris Kramer, the director of the communications at Capcom, said it would be impossible to trademark Biohazard in the US, among others, another game and a band already were using the name. Okay, that's what I assumed it would be. Yeah. Whew. Still not familiar with what Kendo's Gun Shop is, though.
I won't go through the Resident Evil 2 remake beat by beat, but rather I'll highlight the improvements that it makes to the Resident Evil 2.
The improvements are definitely worth it. Like Marvin
wasn't as fond of. Resident Evil 2 remake is fantastic, and honestly, its success is probably partially responsible for the flood of remakes that we've seen in the past 5 years or so.
I would say so. I think because of how well Resident Evil 2 remake did and how faithful it was to the original. And things like that. Like, we eventually got Silent Hill 2 remake. We got Resident Evil 3 remake. We got Resident Evil 4 remake. Dead Space remake. There are so many different remake projects that we got, you know? Kendo's Gun Shop is a fun channel to check out, though I haven't done so for some time. Great place for RE lore. Oh, interesting.
Once other companies saw the success that this game generated, both critically and commercially, they realized they could do the same thing with their properties. Obviously, the largest upgrade that the remake makes over the original Resident Evil 2 is in fidelity. Resident Evil 2 Remake is the second game to use Capcom's RE.
The RE engine, developed specifically for Resident Evil 7, which single-handedly resurrected the Resident Evil franchise. Because if Resident Evil 7 was a flop, Resident Evil would be dead. 100% telling you this now. It is super. It's not up for debate. RE7 saved Resident Evil as a franchise because it was kind of dead in the water before that, or at least dying badly in the water after the mixed opinions on Resident Evil 6, after the failed crap we had with the isometric like killer type game with Umbrella Corps. Operation Raccoon City, you know, we had like so many different spin-offs that were just not well received, you know. Is infidelity. Surprise. Resident Evil 2 Remake ain't faithful.
Engine, which honestly still looks fantastic to this day.
We just replayed this. I still think this game looks friggin' fantastic. I wish my computer could have run it maybe at better quality. I was a little afraid to because we were playing it for so long and I could already feel like my computer getting a little bit toasty. I think RE3 Remake is actually, oddly enough, better optimized, which will be fun. So...
and still gets the company a ton of use. Obviously, this is a huge leap for Resident Evil 2 in terms of graphics, a much further leap than even Resident Evil 1 and its remake made.
Yes,
the updated
absolutely.
models all look great, and you can even tell that Capcom is trying to show off at the beginning of the game with the truck driver eating a burger.
Yeah, look at that burger. Look at it's so greasy. I just want to eat that burger.
Close-ups of the rain and this gas pump. But obviously the game doesn't really look like Resident Evil 2. The team clearly made the decision early on to do away with fixed camera angles, and you know me, I'm a sucker for a good fixed camera angle.
I think this was the right decision. Personally, I think they made the right call. I think changing this into this direction was a great way to get new people interested in the franchise. I think if you only ever do one thing with a game franchise, you are bound to fail eventually or just bore people. Or you just won't get new audiences. You could keep the same one, but you're never going to expand past that. That's why there's some game franchises that I think are kind of still stuck in what they're doing now. And I'm still shocked that they keep going. I won't name specifics, but you know. And to compare the RE2 remake burger with a like a dragon piece of bread or the FF15 food, that too, you know.
And obviously that made sense for the first remake. That game was released in the early 2000s, a time when you could still sell a AAA game with fixed camera angles.
Also, because it was only 6 years since the original Resident Evil came out. This still blows my mind. This game, Resident Evil 1 Remake, came out 6 years or 7 years. I think it's 2002. 6 years after the original. When I tell you the jumps in technological prowess and capabilities that we had in the video game industry during the PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2 era or N64 to GameCube era, it's wild. There needs to be like a documentary about it to see just how crazy of a jump it was.
By the time 2019 rolled around, that wasn't really the case. I also don't really mind the change overall because even from the beginning, Resident Evil had some action elements to it.
Yeah.
The remake doesn't make it a full action game. It still leans on the side of horror, but those third-person camera angles work to make things feel more intense rather than scary.
And they can still make very scary, claustrophobic moments. How many times in my playthrough last week, did I have like a zombie creep up on me out of nowhere because I couldn't hear them, or then get grabbed by like 2 or 3 zombies in a row? How insane were those situations?
And that's probably the best thing that the remake does, is capture the original game's feeling of intensity. Ammo is very limited, maybe even more than the original game.
Ammo itself, probably, but because they give you gunpowder makes it so like it's not limited, if that makes sense. And because there's weapon upgrades that also refill your ammo, like the extended mag for the Matilda or the shotgun upgrade, because those refill ammo, it kind of becomes easier to kind of maintain ammo sometimes. I think it just depends. Early game RE2 feels like you have no ammo. Mid and end game RE2 original felt like I had so much ammo it wasn't even funny. RE2 remake, it feels like you have no ammo in the beginning, and then you find a bunch of gunpowder and you're like, I want to save these, and then you get kind of towards the endish of the game, and it's like, if you want to, you could just waste all of your gunpowders and make whatever you want, and you're just totally good for the last couple of fights.
A gunpowder system is introduced to allow the player to craft their own ammo based on which gunpowders they combine. This system wouldn't really be introduced to the series until Resident Evil 3, but it makes sense here.
It's still in RE3, right? It's still an RE3 remake, right? Or is there not a gunpowder system? There is, right? I think there is. Bro,
Even
I can't
with
remember.
that, though, there's constantly more enemies pouring in from the windows of the building. Instead of just one cutscene where they refresh the halls of the station, zombies can break into the station at any time as we're walking past the windows.
No, I think it's still in Remake.
We can board the windows off to prevent this from happening, but boards take up space in our inventory.
And there's a limited number of them.
A lot of differences from the original, though. We don't end up at Kendo's gun shop until later in the game. A lot more of the fantastical creatures like the moths and the spiders have been removed.
Oh yeah, because there's no spiders at all in RE2 Remake, and there's none in RE3 Remake. I'm gonna be real. I think I'm kind of glad that there aren't. I may have been a little bit too freaked out by the giant spiders because of how much more realistic the graphics are in RE2 Remake and RE3 Remake. I may have shit my pants. I'm not gonna lie. Normally spiders don't creep me out like that, but listen, I don't think I would have been able to handle it. The spiders were a non-factor in classic RE2. I'm not too surprised they were removed in remaking it. There were only like 3 rooms with them. There were insects in RE3 though. Yeah, there was oh my god, what are they called? They're not chimeras, but it's like the same exact model. Oh my god, what are they called? Drain demos? Is that what they were? That's what I hate that. Jade, that thing. The freaking poisoning thing in RE3 Remake is disgusting. I hate it.
Scenes here and there are cut, but genuinely the only negative that I have about this game is that the routes just aren't as impactful.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's what I said before. Literally the one biggest gripe I have on RE2 Remake is the B scenarios don't feel that different. And even the A scenarios, like, I feel like they don't change that much. Claire doesn't go to Kendo's, which is kind of whatever. I really wish that in the B scenarios, Leon would have been with Sherry and Claire would have been with Ada, and we could have gotten kind of a shift in dynamic, you know?
So, like I said before, in the original game, you decide which route you take by choosing which character's story to play first, Leon A or Claire A.
Yeah.
This then sets you on a determined route, and you experience that version of the story.
But then there's no meetup of consequences or of actions. So, like, if you kill the gator in Leon A, doesn't show up in Claire B, but there's no gator in Claire A, and there's always a gator in Leon. So it's like stuff like that. Or like the weapon taking, like, I should leave something for Claire.
Resident Evil 2 kind of has this, but not really.
Not
Instead of
really.
A and B routes, it has something called second run.
Yeah.
So if I beat the game with Leon, the ending is cut off just like in the original game, and I unlock Leon's second run. If I play this now, then it will show what
Leon
is effectively Leon's B scenario, which really doesn't make much sense because I haven't played Claire's A scenario yet, which is the one that it fits with. I guess it's just a different way to deliver the information, but in some ways it's worse than the first game's system.
Yeah, it is. I completely 100% agree. I think it's a downgrade. It's definitely frustrating. I wish it was better. Yeah, it's just my one big complaint.
There's also the fact that Mr. X is now present in both playthroughs, no matter what. I understand this change because they heavily changed the way that Mr. X works in the game.
Yeah,
so
they wanted him to be around.
They want people to see it and not hide it behind the second playthroughs. But it just makes the character feel less focused and less special.
Wait, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Mr. X's change in Remake is fantastic because he feels like a present, constant, looming threat that you have to then be aware of. Especially in the second scenarios, he was stalking my ass. He made certain scenarios and certain encounters miserable, but like in a fun way.
The whole problem with these changes, though, are just the way they make the system feel a lot less dynamic than it was before. We also basically do the same things with both characters throughout the game.
Also
they
true.
Will take slightly different routes throughout the station.
He didn't kill these.
But they will effectively solve the same puzzles in both versions of their story. The only thing that changes is
I don't think I can
solutions.
I don't think I can ever not kill him
but again,
with the knife
this is
strat
among
now.
the very few complaints that I have about the remake. One of the best changes that it does make is Mr. X.
True.
In the first game,
There we
Mr. X
go.
would chase us across different areas, but it was effectively pre-programmed.
Yes. Okay, good.
This means that you could get used to his appearance if you played the game a few times. He was a static event, and even though it didn't feel like it the first time,
demands
he
you turn on the
eventually
Xbox.
could be predicted. This is not the case in Resident Evil 2 Remake. Mr. X is far less predictable. He chases us throughout the station, a constant presence behind us, bearing down on our existence in this space.
I hope the new Resident Evil goes back to horror. Resident Evil 7 was great on that, outside the last part, full action. But Village was not scary for the most part and way more action. So yes, I think they already explicitly said that they were moving more in a horror direction with Resident Evil 9, and returning to Raccoon City was going to kind of amplify that. And it's why we're not playing as Leon in Resident Evil 9. I know that started as a rumor really early, and I never understood where that rumor came from or why it even got started, because Leon's not in the trailer at all. I think people just saw Raccoon City and were like, Leon's back. Leon has to be back. And the thing about it, they said it already, like, Leon can't be the protagonist of RE9 because he won't be scared. You know, he's been through RE2 and RE4 and RE6, you know? Leon in RE9 was part of early leaks. Well, at least they confirmed. I still haven't even watched the breakdown yet. I still need to. Damn. But the thing with Leon is, like, he's too grizzled now. Like, he's not going to be scared about the stuff. So they are instead putting someone that's very green into a horror situation. And they did say that already. So I'm very excited to see what happens with the horror, you know?
Just like in the first game, we can deal enough damage to him to stun him
confirmed
briefly.
Return to Raccoon and it being open world.
He'll be back again no matter what. And this is a feeling that's carried across the entire project.
Okay, to see where 9 goes. I'm excited.
Is the name of the game. It genuinely feels like we're surviving, begging for the next moment that we can take a breath and barely getting by, hanging by a thread.
Does Leon really have a connection to Raccoon City, or its people aside from Marvin? No. People just like to point to it because Resident Evil 2. Technically, Claire doesn't either because she's an out-of-town college student that's there to find her brother. Sherry would because she lived in Raccoon City. So if they wanted to make a game around Sherry, I think that would be cool. If it was Jill or Chris or Rebecca, that could have been cool because they're, you know, STARS members, or Barry. But yeah, it's just, you know.
Most everything in this remake is done well. The game looks gorgeous. Even the little details like the animations that show object interactions.
I think they just used this from Resident Evil 7 though, which I'm not complaining about. It looks good and it works still.
When we use them, the fidelity is increased, but the atmosphere is special too. Dark hallways and narrow corridors. Shadows are used masterfully in the remake.
The callback to Outbreak in 9.
Light is subtly used to communicate.
I'm excited about that.
They need not fear here.
I really do hope that the callback to Resident Evil Outbreak for Resident Evil 9 does mean that we're getting an Outbreak remake, because I've never had the opportunity to play Outbreak. I don't really want to download an emulator. I don't really want to go through the process of setting everything up to trying to make sure I don't break it, to everything like that. I really just want to play it on Steam or on PS5 or whatever else it is. Yeah. So I hope that they do that, you know?
The shooting is incredible, the game feels fantastic to play, and just like the first game, replayability is at an all-time high.
True.
The game rewards you with extra weapons for completing it quickly or getting high ranks.
Costumes.
One of my favorite features of this entry are the extra scenarios that the game includes. It isn't just the fourth survivor scenario that...
Oh, I didn't do any of these. These are like the nightmare scenarios, right? Yeah, because that's Kendo. I never did these because I platinumed RE2 Remake before these came out. So I was like, all right, cool, I'm done with the game. And then these came out and I was like, I'm okay.
fourth survivor scenario that was included in the original game. Of course, that's still present here, but we can also play a scenario where Kendo, who takes his own life in this version of the game, actually survives and manages to escape the chaos of Raccoon City.
Which is
we can even play
crazy.
the mayor's daughter, imagining a scenario where she manages to escape the chief's clutches and get away. I'd also like to note that this version of the game does pay more attention to the side stories. Ada and Sherry's sections feel far more distinct than they did in the original. Sherry actually has her own section now where she's trying to
Hated this, by the way. This is just not fun.
to escape the chief as he chases her down. There's this terrifying sequence where he's crashing through a kid's playroom as we have to sneak around and avoid his gaze. At the end of the day, the remake is better than the original, in my opinion. It isn't quite as good as the remake of the first game.
Oh,
like I
this
said in the
room I
last
got
video,
jump
that
scared
might
into.
be one of the best survival horror games that I've ever played. So it's a pretty high bar to match.
Yup.
The Resident Evil 2 remake is certainly fantastic, though, and while I don't agree with some of its changes, I can't debate the fact that it is an intense, beautiful, and incredibly fun survival horror game.
It do be.
Like I said before, Resident Evil 2 remake was an
Wasn't it a
incredibly
conclusion to
successful
RE2 Revelations
project
with
for Capcom.
Natalia? Yeah, we haven't had that yet. I don't think we ever will. I think while Rev 2 is very well received by the community, like the fandom, like Resident Evil fans love Rev 2. But, or at least like it. But it wasn't giga critically received well in terms of sales. And because it's a spin-off, I think it probably hurt it. Unless we get a Rev 3, maybe. Can we get a game with Jill and Claire? How about we just team them up? Let's do that. Though if that was Rev 3 and both Jill and Claire were just stuck in Revelations and never got to be in main series games again, that would be so messed up. Because Jill has not been in a main series Resident Evil game since Resident Evil 5, where she is basically a damsel in distress or brainwashed puppet, whatever you feel like calling her. Or Revelations, which takes place before Resident Evil 5. Jill is MIA. Claire's last game was Revelations 2. That's crazy.
It currently has a 91 out of 100 on Metacritic
Deserved.
for the PlayStation 4 version of the game.
Deserved.
The game sold 4 million copies within its first month of release. In just 3 years, it had sold over 10 million units. The
Which outsold RE6. Very important.
game would spawn many other Resident Evil remakes and would send the series into a new era of success and popularity.
Yeah, it honestly, going from RE7 to this, 2 Resident Evil bangers in a row, Resident Evil was so back, dude. Resident Evil so back.
Resident Evil 2 is a good sequel.
It's a
But what should a
good sequel.
do? This is a point of contention, and that answer was very different in the 90s.
Remake 2 is Capcom's 3rd best-selling game of all time, right behind Monster Hunter World and Rise. Oh, that's dope. I didn't know Is World their number 1 and Rise is their number 2? That's pretty cool.
Today,
What's up,
it seems
Amaryllis?
sequels always need to build everything from the ground
I'd like to see
up,
Jake again.
to reinvent the wheel and start
be down
from
for that.
scratch. But Resident Evil 2 doesn't really try to do that. Despite its flawed production, the sequel is quite an efficient game. It actually seems to reuse some animations and items from the first game.
Of course it
The
does.
crank is present in RE2, and
Yeah.
the cranking sound seems to be the exact same one from the first game. The spiders don't seem to have been changed at all, and I doubt
Yeah, the
that many
spiders seem
animations
pretty-
for shooting pistols were adjusted all that much.
Probably not. It was probably just like models that were cleaned up, or like bottles being cleaned up.
Resident Evil 2 very much feels like a game on the same framework as the first one.
That's because it uses like the same skeleton.
The upgrades that this game makes when compared to the first game are not massive. They are slight and subtle.
Yeah.
Weapon upgrades, new environments, and the expansion of enemy varieties and enemy amounts are among the few. This doesn't make Resident Evil 2 an entirely new experience, completely built from the ground up. It's still made on the same hardware,
I'm so confused.
assumingly with the same engine. It's just an attempt at making a new story within that framework and pushing things a little bit further.
Very true,
seeing
very
what
true.
the team could do within these constraints. And it seems like they could clearly do a lot.
That's kind of why I'm excited to play RE3 again as well. Because like playing RE3 after this being kind of the last game on these bones and seeing just how far they were able to push this engine and this framework and this skeleton. Because RE3, I'm excited to play RE3 again.
Resident Evil 2, while probably not the best game in the Resident Evil series, is a masterfully done sequel.
I agree.
It knows where it stands. It knows the flaws of the game that came before it.
I agree.
And its motivation is just to improve in these small areas that it can. If there's one thing that Resident Evil 2 and its remake have in common, though, it's that they were both smash hits for Capcom. The original game was rated highly by most outlets, with Resident Evil 2 achieving an 89 out of 100 score on Metacritic. It was the fastest selling video game in North America, and after just over a month, the game had sold 3 million copies. It managed to outdo the bar for success that the first game had set up, which meant that this series was not just around for a good time, but a very, very long time.
Yippee! Also, glad to see this, that he's already caught up to 6, which is dope. I was worried that we were going to catch up before he had videos available, but I still have to find someone to run through RE5 and RE6 with.
The studio would quickly follow up with another sequel and would begin its era of producing many spin-offs, but we'll talk about that next time.
Next time. Bye, son. That's clutch. That's dope. Great video. Well done. Already thumbs up. Cool. Shkapow! Shkapow! Yippee! All right, let me put on the music. Nice. Alrighty. So that's Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2, one of the greatest Resident Evil games of all time, one of the greatest horror survival games of all time. Definitely helped set a lot of framework for a lot of things. 100%. Oh, please give us a femme protag for the next. They are. It's what's her name? All I know is Ashcroft. I already forgot what her name is. Does anyone know what her name is? The new protagonist for RE9. I know it's Alyssa Ashcroft's daughter. I just can't remember her name. She works for the FBI, I believe. Get someone who didn't like RE5 as much so you can talk about the good and the bad parts as you play. Oh. Grace Ashcroft, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, that's RE2. We are finally done with RE2, which is awesome. I freaking love the Resident Evil franchise, in case that wasn't obvious enough by this being the third video we've watched after we played 5 games. Cool. So we played 5 games, 3 videos. Love it. And then we've got another game happening next week. But yeah, guys, that is it for tonight. We are going to be playing RE3 original next week. So definitely lock in for that. It is going to be super fun. I'm very much looking forward to playing the original Resident Evil 3. I think I've beaten it before, but I can't for the life of me remember when I beat it. So I'm gonna pretend like it's blind, even though I pretty much know everything that happens in RE3 original. Oh well. Either way, guys, thank you so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate all of the support. Vibes, thrives, and survives. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to play more Date Everything because we have to find more people to date, and we have to continue maxing our relationships with Mac and Betty at the very least. So definitely going to be a ton of fun. So I'll see you guys tomorrow, 9 p.m. CST for more Date Everything. And then on Thursday, we're going to be playing some Project Zomboid and having some drinks with the Incubus host with the most. That's Mr. Xando Netherbrand. For now, we're going to go ahead and raid in my friend Octavio. He's playing that cool horse anime girl game. So let's go send him some hype and some love. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. I hope you have a great rest of your night. Bye-bye.